open the general meeting of council at 9:11 a.m. Thank you for your attendance, and also like to welcome everyone in the gallery. Thank you for being here for our in-June meeting. Okay, so moving on to confirmation of minutes of the ordinary meeting 25th of January 2023. Do we have a mover? Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 25th of January 2023 be confirmed.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Okay, moving on to page 42, I believe.
That's right.
Item 5.1, postal ballot local government elections 2024. Now, I think this is laid on the table for some information. Have we received that?
No.
Through the chair, that you had laid it on the table
CEO?
because
Kelly said we've got to be right on them.
apologies there. Through the chair, we had laid this on the table so that you could see what the decision was that you had made last time,
Right.
and that was raised yesterday. We need to circulate that information. So
We got that information, or will we lay it on the table till later in the meeting? Or
just through the chair, I'd ask our minute taker.
In relation to this, and I've just adjusted the actual reference to the year of the local government, but that was the prior resolution that was made by council in the lead up to the prior elections. And I can forward further information on that as well.
That's all I needed.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, do we have a mover? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move the council apply to the Minister for Local Government seeking to conduct the 2024 local government election for the Maranoa Regional Council areas as a full postal and attendance ballot in the towns of Roma, Mitchell, Yulbar, Injune, Wallumbilla and Surat.
And I'd second that. Is there any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
Yes, I will. I think this option is the right option for our community. We trialled it, if you will, at the last election. It had never been done like this before, this hybrid type model. And from all reports that I received, it was incredibly positive from the voters that they had an opportunity to vote in person if they wished, or via postal, which we had largely been used to date. This puts us in line with the state and Commonwealth elections that are held every 3 or 4 years, I think we need to put to the Minister that we conducted in the same manner in 2024.
Does anyone wish to speak against the motion or for the motion? I'll speak for the motion. I certainly will be supporting this. I believe that it disadvantaged people in the past when council only had full postal ballot elections. I think this is the right balance. I certainly remember times where people were expecting to go to vote in person and couldn't. So I too agree that I think it worked well last time, and I think that this is the minimum standard for democracy in Australia and Queensland and the Maranoa. So I certainly will be supporting this motion. Does anyone else wish to speak against or for the motion? Does the mover wish to sum up?
Only to say that we obviously, if this is supported today, collectively want the Minister to approve the same model for the election in 2024 as was held in 2020. If in the event that they say no, I think we really need to have a look at a full postal election because holding a just and in-person attendance ballot will greatly disadvantage people that live outside of the towns of Roma, Mitchell, Yorba, Injune and Wallumbilla and Surat. But given how high the voting attendance was last time, I hope the government sees that it was the right fit for us and supports us holding it in the same way in 2024.
Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those...
Can I just ask a question?
Yep.
Does that mean they could say no?
Yes, they could.
Oh, we're just asking.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I didn't realise that.
Yeah, but also they did not say no last time. So
Yeah. I just didn't know they had the right to say no.
yeah, state government is the people above us. So
It's the Electoral Commission that runs the election. Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah, but I think wasn't the Minister for Local Government that actually is asking us. So that's who we sort of answer to. Okay, we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Okay, moving on to 46.
Yes, that's right.
Item 8.1, Injune Heritage Museum. Do we have a mover? Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that Council 1 consult with CHIPS, the Cultural Heritage Injune Preservation Society, regarding the proposed scope and costings of the internal fit-out of the Injune Museum. 2, consider financial contribution to progress the museum design brief, and I'm going to add an extra bit here, as informed by the 5-year strategic plan at the next quarterly review. 3, include the Injune Museum as being brought forward to practical completion as a project for worthy consideration in the forthcoming 2023-24 budget process.
We have a seconder, Councillor Burkett. Please go ahead.
Councillor Guthrie, in number 2 where you say design brief at the next quarterly review, but then you're asking to be considered in the budget, is it both?
I'm asking for both because I'm very, very mindful that there will be, the Queensland Museum will be running some 5-year strategic planning processes, and although we've already got the initial scope that Exhibit has been able to share with us, I would like to think that the meeting in 2 weeks' time will be very, very productive, and I'm sure that the CHIPS ladies will actually then see us step by step and go, we hadn't thought of that, or short term we need, because my thought would be that, as in the 3rd paragraph, I'd like to see the Injune Museum be operational, but I think there's 2 parts to this. One is the making sure the scope and the intended scope and the 5-year strategic plan, if there's anything that comes from that that needs to be done before putting it as a project, is actually part of the budget.
Okay, now does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
There's a question.
Councillor Hancock has a question.
Basis. Yeah, I'm actually a little bit confused about exactly what we're doing. I have a problem with it. But are you asking to have financial contribution to the design brief, or is the design brief already paid for?
We have an initial design brief that was actually created prior to the construction of the building.
So the financial contribution isn't to pay for a design brief, that's already been done?
Well, it may be to tweak the design brief as a result of the 5-year strategic planning process that will be done in 2 weeks' time.
Yep.
So we're basically going back and saying, should we look at the design brief? Originally, the intention was to do this and that, and then they might say, well, the logistics of doing it, or maybe we need to tweak it or modify it. And if there's a cost attached to that, I don't want to see them held up because of greater knowledge or facilitation through Queensland Museum, and then awareness that they need to do this before they can then get to the next stage, which is the fit out.
So point 2 is about paying for design brief, point 3 is about paying for the actual project.
Yeah, the fit out. Yep. I'm going to defer to the CEO. My understanding is that we've actually paid for the design brief, and that would have been what we actually built the building from, I'm believing,
Yes.
and I'm sure that the bill has
Then
been
I'd be
paid.
confused
So
with
through the
number
chair,
two.
just to confirm what's being said on the floor is there is a design brief. It may need to be further modified, so there may be a cost
Correct.
associated with that.
Correct.
But that should be a small cost.
Correct.
But the fit out in relation to, I think the words practical completion might be a little bit confusing here, is it's actually, the building's finished.
Correct.
The reality is you've got a fit, it needs a fit out, an appropriate and relevant fit out to be a active working museum, which of course may have some significant costs,
Correct.
and that be brought through the budget process.
Yeah. Because my understanding at this particular point, we have an empty building.
Yeah, so it's actual internal.
It's as
It's
I've
the
said,
internal,
it's
it's
the
not
internal
the
fit out of the
completion.
Indian Museum, which is paragraph 1, is what I'm seeking to then advance for your consideration.
So then would you write include Indian Museum fit out as a project for worthy
right.
consideration
Yeah.
of forthcoming?
So
I have a question.
I'm not, sorry, I've
Yeah.
just got another, just what you're saying, the
Hang on,
next quarterly
Hang on,
review.
can I just, am I answering Councillor O'Neill's question or?
Jumped in,
Okay.
sorry.
Councillor Hancock.
please go ahead, Councillor
Just with the
Hancock.
quarterly review, just, we're actually considering that later in the meeting. Are you meaning now or are you meaning at the next one?
I'm meaning the next quarterly review.
So,
Quarter 3, through the
yeah.
chair. Is
That's
that
correct.
correct?
Mm.
Yeah.
okay, just otherwise, our next
Yes.
one is actually today.
That's right, but they're not having the meeting with Queensland Museum for another 2
Yeah,
weeks.
I understand
Yeah.
that, but we just need to make sure we have it right in the resolution.
So
So we have Councillor Edwards is next with a question.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm not sure how to word this. So what was the second one there, Councillor Guthrie? What was the, can you read it out again? I haven't.
Consider
Sorry, no, it's up there now. Consider
financial
form.
contribution to adjust the museum design brief, and maybe in brackets, as informed by the 5-year strategic plan process. Maybe I add the word process. So what I'm basically saying, in 2 weeks' time, the CHIPS ladies will be meeting with Queensland Museum, and they will be then determining what the 5-year goal will be and what all the particular practical aspects will be. And as I said, we do have a design brief that was originally used for the construction, and we have, and thank you to Director Lee for sending us with the update so we know what it will look like. But it may be that when they're talking with Queensland Museum in their expertise, they might say, well, have you considered, or why don't you relocate, or what about? So, I mean, I'm not preempting what their workshop will bring out, but I'm sure that there will be things that they will go, well, if we had known at the beginning, we would have included it, and there is a small financial cost. I don't want them to be hampered by the small financial cost to then get to the operational status for the Indian Museum.
So what would you envisage as being part of the 5-year strategic plan? Like, I'm aware that there's 5 strategies in that. So does that form part of the corporate, which part of the corporate plan does that come under?
Well, that'll come back. Well, and I don't have a crystal ball, but I do know that we've got each of the different areas will be meeting with Queensland Museums, and they will be then looking at their own individual 5-year plans, and then we are coming together as a full council to look at the regional 5-year plan, or what they are determining could be a priority that will feed into our corporate plan, is my understanding.
Okay, so I've got a question. Or do you have another question, Councillor Edwards?
No, I was just, like the corporate plan is, yes, I do. The corporate plan is a fairly big document. It's a very wide-ranging document. It does get down to the nitty-gritty, I guess, when you go through it. But yeah, I guess in an overall context, it fits in there somewhere. You know what I mean? It's part of the corporate plan in the end, because that's what governs the whole show. Yep.
And I'm happy to share my understanding. It may or may not be accurate, but this is what I'm working on. I'm hoping it's correct. Your corporate plan is a 5-year document which is
Mhm.
a way forward for the next 5 years. And what falls out of that will be your operational plans and your budgets. So it needs to be written with eyes down the track for 5 years to say this is what we are going to be working towards and this is our way forward. And then from that will become each and every year and the money that needs to be then allocated towards priorities or projects or the actual intent of the corporate plan.
So,
Yep.
so you
Thank you.
can, righto. So a couple of questions. One is point 2. When you're talking about the, as informed by the 5 years strategic plan process, that's obviously for the museum, isn't it?
That's correct.
Yeah. Are you sure you want to limit point 2 to just about the design brief when we haven't got anything in the museum? So that's the question. Or did you want to have something in there that actually says if they have some preliminary things they can do in the museum, they could look at it in the Q3 review. We could look at it at the Q3 review.
I'm seeing as the second paragraph as a step towards budgetary consideration. And I'm thinking that this is not going to be a large amount of money. This is just enabling that when we get to the budget, they can then give us feedback and say, this is where we're at. This is really what we're working towards. And I'm also very, very aware that it's a work in progress and the actual physical artefacts, a wish list has been drawn up and there are a number of items that they are very, very keen to do. But there's a certain amount of flexibility there. So I think until they have the Queensland Museum lead them through a strategic planning process, there are a lot of things that are yet to be 100% in concrete. And I would like to think that the third paragraph there is basically the 100% in concrete. How much money do they need and what may be considered through the budget in the forthcoming year.
So that means it's not practically going to happen till the end of the season, if not next year.
That's right. I can't see, and I'm not speaking on behalf of CHIPS because I don't have their timeframes that I'm very, very, there's not dates. I mean, I know that it's aspirational and they're very keen to get it operational as fast as possible, but I mean, there'll be steps involved and things like the relocation of the Barramundi wool shed will take time, but I'm sure that they will be keen to have it open as soon as they possibly can, which would be in the next financial year, I'm assuming.
Okay, do we have a question? Councillor Hancock?
Just, Councillor Guthrie, would you consider just tightening that up so it's at the Q3 quarterly, not the next, just so that's confusing about today.
Okay. If that's confusing, I'm happy to put down the number 3. Yeah.
Q3. Is that what you said, Nancy?
Yeah,
Q3 budget review.
Yep.
Which is happening in March, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
I'm going to say that is a really, really good suggestion because there is conversation being had, but it would be lovely to have it in the resolution. Thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
I'm just going to read, Councillor Edwards, I'm just going to read out paragraph 2 again, just because it's been tweaked slightly, just to make sure that it's very clear what we're considering. So number 2 is considering a financial contribution to adjust the museum design brief as informed by the 5-year strategic plan process and feedback from CHIPS. So we're including the feedback from CHIPS as an important stage in this process. And the timing will be at the Q3 budget review.
Thank you.
Okay, does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I'd just like to say that this has been a project that has been one that's been advanced for a number of years, and I'm very, very, very pleased to see it come to fruition. And I just want to acknowledge the ladies and those involved in CHIPS who have worked so tirelessly to get this up and running. And it's pretty much a community-led project, so there's a lot of passion within this this area about it being erected and being operational. So it's a very, very noteworthy thing to happen. I'd also like to thank our director, Lee, for keeping us up to date with the information and pictures of its progress. So we've been able to be kept abreast of the where it is and the what is happening. And I'd also like to say that I'm sure that once it is operational, it will become a must-see destination for people on the tourist trail.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak to the motion?
Sorry, did you check that the seconder was happy
Yeah, I
with
was
the
just going
amendments?
to say that.
Yeah, is the second
Yeah,
happy with the amendments?
I was happy at the start. I'm happy at the end.
Righto.
I think it took a long time to get to it, but I think we're there.
Please go ahead. Speak.
I'm definitely speaking for the motion. I've been lucky enough to have a look inside the new building, and I think it's fantastic. It's a great asset to not only Injune but to the whole area. Congratulate wherever he's gone, Director Lee and the Chips ladies, and there might be some men in the background. Lee's usually a good man behind every woman. I think it's a great asset, like I said, and I look forward to it also coming to fruition, and I can't wait till tonight to see the looks on people's faces because it is a pretty outstanding building. So congratulations to all involved.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak?
Yeah, I also support it, Mr. Mayor. I think it's going to be a great asset for the town, and the quicker we get it moving, the better.
I'll speak to the motion. Certainly be supporting this. I'd actually even like to see it going faster than this, but I'll be supporting this motion because I think the more that we can save our history, I do believe we've got an empty building and we need to get something in it quickly. And it will be a process that will take years, I believe. Museums should be living things and they will keep changing. But I think we need to, as quickly as possible, get to the first stage. So I'll certainly be supporting this and anything else that makes it go quicker. Does anyone else?
Can I say something? Yep, I'll support. Sorry, I'll support that. I'll be voting for it. I definitely like the enthusiasm around this building. Everyone's who's been involved with the show, absolutely wonderful enthusiasm, and that's what that's what it's all about in these towns. And I'd like to thank Councillor Guthrie for bringing this motion to the council today. And apart from all the wonderful people behind, it's a great motion, and to bring it forward. And I'd like to congratulate Councillor Guthrie on the enthusiasm she's shown. Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Does the move wish to sum up?
No, just to say it has been a long time in coming to fruition, but better late than never, and we are very excited to have something of this calibre in June.
Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Item 11.1, Budget Development Schedule 2023-24. I'd like to move that Council endorse the annual budget schedule as presented. Do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Righto, moving on. Page 62.
Yes, sorry, apologies.
$11.2, 2022-23 Quarter 2 Progress Report, Operational Plan to the 31st of December 2022. Councillor McMullen.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that Council 1 receive and note the contents of the 2022-23 Quarter 2 report, endorse the Quarter 2 report as presented in accordance with Section 104(7) of the Local Government Act 2009. 3. Remove 6 items noted in Schedule 1 of this report. 4. Add 10 items noted in Schedule 2 of this report. 5. Amend 3 items noted in Schedule 3 of this report. Must be it.
We have a seconder, Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Do we have a question?
I have a good question, yeah.
Please go ahead.
I have a couple of questions with the corresponding documents. So through you, Mr. Mayor, Madam CEO, just with the schedules that we are we're taking out on page 66. There's the 5.83. It's to collect, register, and distribute daily incoming correspondence, information management officers, and mail it's very hard, the slogan, mailboxes maintained in Roma and Mitchell. If we're taking out out of our operational plan, our process of collecting and registering our correspondence, what have we replaced it with?
Just through the chair, I'll just hand over to the Director of Corporate Services. I think the reason this is moving out is because this is just a normal standard business item, but I'll just hand over to the Director.
Director, you'll have to
You'll
be
have to
over
s-
here
yep.
with the microphone.
Thank you for the question. What we've decided to do is to take out certain items that are a standard practice for us, rather than a measurement of whether it's a measure of success. We haven't stopped that practice. We are continuing to do it. We're just taking it off the list because it is a standard daily practice that we use. Does that answer your question?
Yep, that's good for that one. I have quite a few others.
Yep.
The
Can I ask on that point?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm going to keep going. Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks to the Director for the answer. I just query the reasoning for taking it out is against the reason why it was put in.
Yep.
And we had a lot of issues in the early days after amalgamation with mail.
Yes.
And, issues with it being actioned, it being entered, people that are corresponded with council getting correspondence back. Yep. And so we ended up moving, having a post office box in Mitchell and then in Roma. Yep. But kept it in there to ensure that we were meeting the standards of the community in terms of getting back to them through that means. Now, I know we're a long way down the road in terms of years from amalgamation. I know that there will have been an increase in communications electronically, yes, but there will still be hard copy correspondence that comes into council. So I just worry taking it out, we're losing that
Visibility
of maintaining that standard that we've reached, that the community seem to be happy with, because we're not hearing complaints anymore.
Yes, yes. Look, there's various, just in regards to complaints, there's various ways in which we try and cater for all avenues for complaints to be received by council, and we do action them through our customer request system. And yes, there are some improvements we need to do around the actual system, but this is actually around how we actually receive mail, etc., through the organisation. So I think we've progressed with regards to the receival of hard documents into the organisation. It's how we actually process it now and respond in a timely fashion to the customer. So that's where we're at this particular point in time.
Just to follow, how do you get the check and balance then if you remove it?
So through the chair, look, certainly the purpose of the operational plan being reported is that this report has been put up by officers with recommendations in relation to removal, amendment, or addition. Some of those additions, naturally, council's made resolutions during the process, and we're tidying that up. But should an item not wish to be removed, you have the right to say, look, we'll accept Schedule 1, but with a modification of include ABC, and indeed any of these. But the aim of the operational plan reporting is to keep this operational plan up to date. And as the Director of Corporate Services has said, is we probably did not have that context in relation to the issues that were being experienced at amalgamation.
Yep.
And certainly the practice is to continue to receive mail and to meet that within reasonable turnaround times from a practice perspective. But if there is context and we are suggesting something be removed, this is the advantage of having this debate today and giving us that context in relation to that. And the officers put forward their reasons, and ultimately it's council's corporate plan. So the final result is up to us all.
Thank you.
And then I've just noticed on page 68, there's a few of the projects that have been added into our operational plan that we're being asked to add in, such as the car parking in Roma Central Business District, access to Mitchell Bowls Club, I notice on page 69 we've got the acquisition of the historic tourism asset in Roma, which I think is actually public knowledge now, so I think that actually could be put the name. It's a negotiation with State Development Acquiring Land. Like, some of this stuff we actually haven't decided to actually do, and it's going into our operational plan. That sort of concerns me because it isn't, we actually haven't decided that we're going to do that.
Once again, it is up to council as to whether they wish to include or whether they wish to not include any of these items in the operational plan. By way of context for this is the operational plan for this current year, and I just draw your attention to, like for example, the car parking in Roma CBD is investigate land located. There's no outcome with regards to it. It's just an investigation with regards to that. So it's not a solid. It's an understanding about what that is. But once again, it's up to council as to whether they think it should be appropriate to be in there or not.
Councillor
Mr. Mayor, that car park one, there's a resolution to do that.
Don't think so. I think it's another one.
Yep,
I
sorry.
think there was another one that come to the table.
But it still says investigate, it doesn't say...
Investigate.
Yeah,
So
so
yeah.
it's-
Down
From the
other
Mitchell
end.
meeting.
So through the chair,
The only one I know of was the one at the other end of town.
yeah,
There's been a report that's come to council, or a suggestion that's come to council about another one.
but it's just...
So I'd like to know, that's right, Jeff, so I'd like to know which one that is.
yes,
Because I
certainly.
don't think it
So
is that
Well, I think
through
there's
the chair, the amendments here of the additions actually come from live resolutions of council. So certainly, there's a qualification of any of these. We can go back to that resolution to give that information.
I only can remember us approving to investigate one area.
Yeah, that's
the
it
one
just
you
says
got.
only investigate.
Well, that's one particular block down the other end of town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And there's no financial, it's
No.
not a financial thing except for staff time. Councillor Taylor?
Well, my question is, why is this even here? Like, these are all things that have been in a resolution or we've asked for a report for, so why are they here today? And like, I'm on page 70 here on the back where it's about the 236 Edward Street. Well, I thought we'd 3/4 decided, but that was something that came to council, and now it's a, you know, it's a cost to upgrade. Well, that wasn't what was decided.
Just through the chair, just to get some context here, is on the 31st of December, when the operational plan was being updated, we had a resolution to investigate the upgrade of that building. You're quite right, is in the next quarter, what you'll see is that operational plan amended to reflect council's decision at its last meeting, which was to proceed to sale. The operational plan should be a good living document for staff, and the internal improvements we've made in conjunction with our management is that we've asked them to come back to us to say, can you please make sure that what is in the operational plan is what you're working on? So those new resolutions of council that come in during the year that weren't in the original operational plan do need to have the optics and be included. Why? Is because we do allocate resources to those decisions, whether it's investigate and to do those actions. And we fund that operational plan. So not to have good optics on the work that you're working on that may have been added during the year is potentially a resourcing issue. And certainly the work we've been doing with our management is to make sure they can deliver their operational plan and that it stays up to date so council can, hand on heart, go back to its community, driving the delivery of all of the items that are in that operational plan, if that makes sense. And what we found in probably the last year is that we weren't capturing those new decisions between the operational plan at the time it's adopted to the time it's finalised. And so hence we've done this work, and a lot of the resolutions that have been added to the operational plan are in that land tenure area because the council's been quite active in that space.
So that one will be changed in the next one, right? Because we made a decision after that, right? So this is the decision we made before December to look at upgrading it, and then we've made a different decision.
I
Count.
just don't understand why it's even come to the table.
No, but
It's in the
Just
last.
through the chair,
thing.
we have a statutory obligation to update and present our operational plan to you, and to indeed make sure it's staying up to date, amending, removing, and adding. Because from a statutory perspective, that is what council is funding, and we have an obligation to report on that. So we're just bringing it up to date, essentially.
Councillor Hancock, did you have more questions?
No, thank you. That's
Righto, Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you. Through the chair to the CEO. The thing that I'm confused about is if, take for example, the report that was asked to investigate that additional car park. If that had happened quickly, would that, and that had come back to council, would that initial resolution of simply to investigate had appeared in the operational plan?
Sorry, can you just I just missed that last
The
bit.
example I'll use again is the to investigate the additional CBD car parking.
Yep.
If that had been actioned within a short period of time,
Yes.
that
okay.
would never have appeared in the operational plan because a report would have come back for council to consider, either knocking it on the head or if the decision was to add it, then that would appear and there'd be a financial component to it.
Yes.
So I don't understand, because I haven't seen resolutions that relate to simply investigating appear in the operational plan before.
Okay. Yep. Sorry. Thank you for the question. My response to there is yes, we are moving from a change where the operational plan was based on a 5-year timeline with regards to the corporate plan, and now we're becoming a little bit more, I suppose the word to use is a little bit more agile in what we're reporting through to council. Our maturity level is not necessarily at a 5 at the moment with regards to how that actually operates, and we do need to make some improvements with regards to that, but it's obviously from the officers' perspective, they're seeing that will take up a fair bit of their time, and they wish to make sure that they report that, what their progress is around that particular type of project that they have to take, whether it's an investigation or actually further actions. What I say to you is you are quite correct. If it was just a simple report going to council, then chances are it won't be on the operational plan. The operational plan is something that you look at as part of the budgeting process, which we spoke about yesterday at the briefing, where you set your plan for the next year. Yes, there might be some tweaks and changes as you go, but as I was saying, this is the first time we started making some changes throughout the year on the operational plan to make it a little bit more focused and a little bit more agile to make sure that we're trying to give reasonably accurate and up-to-date information through to the council. And obviously the officer thinks that this is an important part of what they're doing at the moment, so that they wish to report on. If it was a simple report that took them, a half a day or something like that, then yes, I would suggest you're correct. It's probably not something that really needs to be put on the operational plan. It's something that probably, if there's a plan around, it's going to take some time, and it's something that they really need to focus on as an outcome for the year, then yes, it would be included.
And so then through the chair, that example again wouldn't appear in here if we've simply, by majority, have asked to investigate whether it's for sale.
Yes. Yeah. Look,
should not appear in here because that gives it gives some emphasis to the community that is progressed more than what it currently has by decision of this body.
Yeah. Look, through the chair, your operational plan is ours, and it is about the work we're doing. Certainly working, especially in this particular area where we've made the changes, is there was criticism in relation to the turnaround of standard items that were sitting in that operational plan. And the officer that supplied the information into this amendment has said, but look, I'm doing all of this extra work for council, which regardless of whether it's an investigation or not, is still time, real and real cost. And you would make a judicious decision potentially as how long that took, but an investigation might take a year, and it still has to be resourced. So for completeness, we need to keep these operational plans up to date, but especially in your facilities and tenure area, they are doing an awful lot of investigative work and exploratory work for council, which actually takes them off the commitments they've already made as part of that operational plan. And so the advantage of having an up-to-date operational plan is, look, council, are you being realistic about what you're asking that area of the business to deliver? Because there's all this additional work and it has to be resourced. And certainly that's the maturity level we are seeking from our managers. And there are some managers that obviously had a significant impact on their operational planning environment. And that area of the business is also suffering some vacancies, and from a resourcing perspective, we've made that commitment to deliver. So we're trying to keep these things up to date. We're also trying to honour our management and saying, actually, you know what, operationally we're delivering a lot more in that area than we originally forecast on, when we adopted our budget on the 30th of June. So it is that process, is small transactions, maybe not, but to be frank, it's all effort, it's all time, it's all cost, and many of the things associated with facilities and land tenure are not transactional. They're actually quite complex.
Okay, so does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Righto, does anyone wish to speak?
Yeah, me. I'd just like to add that that's a very important thing CEO just said, and it's very risk oriented as well. So it removes doubt, removes risk. I feel that's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, I'll speak for the motion. I believe this is actually quite refreshing to see the detail in here.
Amendment.
Please go ahead.
I'd like to move that we include that we don't remove on page 66 corporate plan reference 5.83, which is the collect, register and distribute daily incoming correspondence, information management officers and mailboxes maintained in Roma and Mitchell.
Do you have a seconder for that amendment?
You've got to check with the mover
does
if
the
they're happy
mover-
to.
No, Mr Mayor, I don't accept it. No.
Okay, do you have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Hancock, do you wish to speak to the amendment?
Yeah, thanks very much. As I highlighted earlier, this was a major concern for a long time after amalgamation. I joined council 4 years after amalgamation in 2012, and it was still a burning issue for our community that was fed into councillors of the day, that the incoming and outgoing correspondence of council was not at the standard in which the community expected. I think we have moved in the right direction since then. With the addition of the Roma post box to the Mitchell one, it has spread the load and has ensured that there is the right level of eyes on this particular aspect of council and the correspondence that comes in by mail. And I think it would be incredibly important to leave that in as a part of our corporate plan and part of the operational plan, and is an indication to the community that would take the correspondence, not just electronically, and I'm mindful that there will have been a significant increase in electronic correspondence in the years since 2008, but nonetheless we still get hard mail in the post, and I think this will show the community that we still take this aspect of council really seriously, and it also indicates to the organisation as a whole the importance of getting back to people in terms of the correspondence that comes into council.
Okay, do you have a question?
I have a question.
Please go
just
ahead.
To clarify before I make up my mind either way. So by the removal of this, are we saying that physically letters will go into a post box in Mitchell and then have to be physically removed back to Roma should they need to be actioned in Roma? Is that what we're deciding to do?
Through the chair, I think, and I'm just making an assumption here from the councillor's perspective, is the councillor's proposing that it be put back in simply because there's context in relation to that, around service levels and a history in relation to that. The activity will still happen, regardless of whether it's in the operational plan or not.
And I'm not
Yes,
by no
that's
means am I
exactly
suggesting
right.
it won't.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the oversight for us that it stays in the operational plan.
That's, can I speak? I've had,
Well, hang on. So,
well, this is in regards where I'm going to make my mind up too, because,
well, do you have a question? Or
well, if we're looking at transparency, what you said before, if people see that, the interpretation I got off Councillor O'Neill, that wasn't going to happen, and now we hear it is. So people are going to assume after hearing Councillor O'Neill that the post box is going to be
Is
gone.
it a question? Otherwise,
Well,
you
it's
need
got, needs to be clarified before we
but
vote.
you need to do the debate. So
I think I made it clear that I'm not suggesting that it's not going to happen. I'm saying that the oversight will be removed.
right, okay. Does someone wish to speak against the amendment or for the amendment? I'll speak against the amendment. I believe we're seeing extra detail in this Q2 operational plan progress report. I think we need to trust the officers. I think if we get a sniff that it is not happening, we can easily put it back in. But I think we've got to let the officers, like they've made it very clear that it will still happen. So I think we need to take that on face value and actually we're all out in the community. We will hear things, and if we want to put it back in, we can put it back in if it needs to be oversight.
And through the chair, just to qualify, potentially, Councillor Burkett, there's no intention to remove anything from Mitchell.
Yeah, no, well, that's
right.
That's what I was getting, but the way it's getting worded, that's what it's putting a lot of emphasis that it could be.
Okay. So does anyone wish to speak for the amendment? Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, I do, thank you. This isn't a question of trusting staff for me. We do trust our staff and we trust the processes. For me, the Mayor has just said that we're actually putting more detail into this operational plan that we haven't before. So I don't know why we would take this level of detail out of our operational plan when it actually is, for me, the reason it's in the operational plan is because we have so many officers in so many different towns, it became a bit muddy for the community. And not only that, staff, we have so many new staff at the moment as well, to know how to deal with that mail. And so for me, our mail really is important to our organisation, and just that operational plan of this is actually how we're actually dealing with our mail is really important internally and externally. So for me, it is just actually providing a level of detail over a really important part of our organisation to help our staff know what that plan is, and for our community to have faith in the council that we're dealing with their correspondence in a good manner. So that's all it is for me, is just actually, if we're putting detail in our operational plan, not sure why we would take this level of detail out of our operational plan.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Does the mover wish to sum up?
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. So, given that there was some confusion, by no way am I suggesting that the action is being removed, but it was embedded in the corporate plan, was supported in that corporate plan 5 years ago, that this stays in there for the oversight to mitigate the concerns that the community had raised since 2008 in respect to correspondence. And as Councillor Hancock has articulated, there is more things being added into the operational plan today in terms of detail. I'm not too sure why we would be removing this important line item that the community told us they wanted included in the corporate plan at least 5 years ago, and before that as well.
Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment? All those against the amendment?
Against.
7-2, if I can call for a division. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak about the actual motion? Does the mover wish to sum up?
I do, actually.
Oh, please go ahead, Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'm actually going to vote against this this resolution, purely because I think that if we're going to put all the other level of details in where we're investigating, putting time and energy in, and we're investigating some of these projects, and we're going into that level of detail, there's some of the projects in there that I don't agree with, and I don't agree with it going into the operational plan whilst we're taking out how we deal with our correspondence out of the operational plan.
Okay, Councillor Taylor,
Question, if
please
I may.
go ahead.
In number 5, where it says amend 3 items noted in Schedule 3, what are the amendments exactly?
Sorry, which?
Page 69 and 70.
I think it's all the green, isn't it?
What exactly are we amending?
So they're just going to some detail around what specifically they're looking at. These are so what's highlighted in green is what they're actually including as part of the, previously it was just in black. So they're now including specifically leasing the Surat Childcare Centre, the Maranoa Kindergarten, the Roma Senior Citizens Centre, Life Flight at Roma Airport. So they're all the additions that they want to include into, they're the amendments.
I think
Everything in green.
Yes.
it's just amending the KPIs.
Okay, Councillor Taylor,
Can I talk against the
please.
motion then?
Yeah, please
I
go
too
ahead.
am not going to vote for this.
Into the
I
microphone.
couldn't vote. Sorry?
Into the
I couldn't vote for the
Bring it
amendment
towards
because
you, you can-
because I don't believe in any of it, to be honest. I just feel really worried about, especially when we consider an acquisition or consider. I believe it should come to our table to consider, and there's just something that it just doesn't sit right with me. So, and that's one of the reasons I didn't vote for the amendment, because I just don't believe in any of it. So I won't be voting for that motion.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Does the Mayor wish to sum up?
No thanks, Mr Mayor.
We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
All those against? 6-3 if I can call for a division. Okay, moving on. Now, page 71. Thank you. $12.1 Hawthorn Street asphalt overlay project, Roma. Do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move that Council, one, note the project design has considered the current loading bay issues on Hawthorn Street and amended the crossfall to help improve compliance at this location. 2, select Boral Resources Queensland Proprietary Limited as the recommended tenderer for the Hawthorn Street asphalt overlay project. 3, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to enter into final negotiations with Boral Resources Queensland Proprietary Limited, noting a contract sum of $368,964.71 exclusive of GST, and execute the contract if the final terms are acceptable. 4, authorise the nominated superintendent for council the delegation to order variations up to the value of the approved budget, noting that the tender and contract is delivered under a schedule of rates arrangement. And 5, increase the approved project budget work order W22860 by $66,000 to $427,000 by allocating additional budget from Council's Seal Network High Roughness Strategy Budget Work Order 23648.
Okay, we have a second. Councillor Guthrie. Do we have a question?
Yes, I do.
Please go ahead.
I have 2 questions. Through you, Mr Mayor, Deputy Director. Just double checking, we're increasing the budget by $66,000 to $427,000, but we're entering into a final negotiations to the value of $368,964. So there's a difference there. I'm just wondering what that is for.
contingency.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Hancock, and through you, Mr. Chair. That the difference there, and I've got Jarvis on the line with me. He can jump in if there's anything he wants to add. But the difference there is essentially to manage any contingency. So to get the best value for money for this job, you go on what you call a scheduler rate. So you pay for what's placed there. So that's based purely on the design, what we think. So best case scenario, come out and we can deliver that job for the contract value. The extra is just to make sure that we're not halfway through a night shift. I haven't got the financial delegation to order extra asphalt because we've got a soft spot on the road or something like that. So that's the discrepancy. The key is that the difference there is the contractual arrangement with the selected contractor is only for that amount, and that the difference between theirs for council to manage.
Yes, that's not for the contract. Yep.
Yeah.
My second question is, I note that we're taking from Council Seal Network High Roughness Strategy budget. Is there a project there that we're not doing that we should have been doing, or is it?
No, thanks for the question. The high roughness sealed strategy budget was some stabilised pavements around the region, just where real short sections where you're driving over bitumen roads and there's just a rough bump in it that we've just gone to fix up. The original budget was developed based on some data that I was looking at. A fair few of the high roughness identified was actually at grids and at them locations. So essentially recommending that we put the shortfall into this project because we don't probably need that full amount, and we could focus on some grids under a different program there. So
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now, does anyone wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to thank the Director Cameron and all the other staff involved in this. This is going to resolve what's been a very dangerous street for some 12 months now or more. Trucks having to park in the middle of the road because they can't get into the gutter to unload the freight and all that. So there's a truck parking bay in front of or at the back of the shop, but it's too big an angle or too dangerous. So this will resolve a lot of problems.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak?
Excuse me, Chair.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Just for completeness, can I just suggest item 5? Says because all that we'll see there is the office recommendation, but just clarify in there that it's ex-GST or inclusive of GST on item 5.
through you, Mr. Mayor, that's excluding GST. Our project budgets always exclude GST. So.
Yeah, but we don't know that by looking at the thing. Yeah.
Understood.
Is the mover and
yeah, I'm happy with that. Yes, yeah, for sure.
It's in the next one.
Righto. Does anyone else wish to speak? I'll speak. Obviously, very good to solve that safety issue and obviously improve Hawthorn Street. At the same time, also, I'm supportive too, and it's good to see a different variety of contractors being used. So certainly glad to see some diversity in who has been selected. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Does the mover wish to sum up?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Righto, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. $78. 12.2 Regional Bitumen Stabilisation Project 2022-23. Do we have a mover? Councillor, I think Burkett was first.
Oh, always quicker than him. I'd like to move that Council 1 select T&W Earthmoving Proprietary Limited as the recommended tenderer for tender VP 337972 Road Rehabilitation Project 2022-23. 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or Delegate to enter into final negotiations with T&W Earthmoving Proprietary Limited, noting a contract sum value of $3,076,162 exclusive GST and execute the contract in the final terms are acceptable. 3, authorise the nominated superintendent for council the delegation to order variations up to the value of the approved budget, noting the nature of the contract and the variability associated with the road rehabilitation design process. And 4, assign expenditure to 2022-23 budget allocation for the road rehabilitation projects.
Yeah, we have a second, Councillor Ladbroke. Does anyone wish to speak to the project, to the motion?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Righto, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0.
Thanks, Ken.
13.1, water access to in-June town entrances. Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that Council 1 acknowledge that this report is being provided in response to resolution number OM/10.2022.47.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor.
Oh, sorry.
To declare my conflict first.
Okay.
Righto, please go ahead.
Mr Mayor, I'd just like to declare a conflict of interest in 13.1, water access to in-June township entrances. Myself, Councillor McMullen, my stepdaughter Leanne Williams is the person with the interest. My stepdaughter Leanne Williams is one of the volunteers who run the group of children that tend to these garden beds. Although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Councillor Burkett.
I think that is in the public interest that Councillor McMullen participates and votes on agenda item 13.1 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Taylor. Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Okay, Councillor.
I'll start again.
Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that Council 1 acknowledge that this report is being provided in response to resolution number OM/10.2022.47. 2, approve the installation of a water supply to each of the 4 garden beds at the town entrances of Injune on both the eastern and western sides of the Carnarvon Highway with a $15,000 allocation at the next quarterly review. And 3, negotiate with Advance Injune Beautification Subcommittee so that the water access installation occurs in conjunction with the proposed town entrance signage.
We have a seconder, Councillor McMullen. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Guthrie.
I've actually added the extra paragraph in there because I know in the last budget we allocated money, and I know that the Advance Injune subcommittee are actually, they've gone out and looked for different designs, etc. And to me, it's a no-brainer to actually have, if construction or digging or earth moving or whatever is being done, that it gets done together. And it may be that consideration be done that taps get put on the supports, or if they're trenching to put something in, it gets done together. And I just think that in years past, we have gardens that have been placed on the entrances, and my goodness, there's been a lot of hard work with a lot of really committed people going down with water to water the trees, and that is not a long-term and viable way of keeping our township entrances green and inviting. So this, to me, would be a step forward for Injune to actually then celebrate the fact that we're very green conscious, but we're also very, very proud of our town.
Okay, Councillor Ladbrook.
Yeah, I'm just with that allocation. I think it's important for all these small towns that we look after them, and I'm quite excited about making Injune look good as you arrive at Injune.
Okay, does someone wish to speak? Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that this is a great report that's coming to council. This project of the town entrances at Injune has been raised with me as a councillor for a couple of years now, and yes, we did put some money into the budget for some beautification of the town entrance, and it'd be great because to have the water there, because obviously we need the water to be able to beautify those entrances. And so, yeah, I fully support this, and looking forward to seeing some beautiful flowers and green entrance for the Injune community.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak?
I've got a question.
Please go ahead.
Through the chair to whoever can answer. The work to occur, which is the installation, the proposed town entrance signage, do we know where that's at?
Yes, through the chair, we've progressed a number of designs which are going out, and they're in the consultation space there. So hopefully we'll try and progress that now with this resolution and progress the whole project as one now.
And the reason I ask is you don't want that to hold up the implementation of the water infrastructure, given it's a bit dry again, and they're not looking as good as what they could if they had the water there. And one further question through the chair: how much money do we allocate? Because I can't find it in the budget.
I think it's 15 on the report.
I'd have to confirm it, but I thought it was $20,000.
I had 20 in my head, and I've looked through there just now to find that, and I can't find the allocation. So hopefully I've just missed it skimming through, but...
Yeah, I believe it wasn't in this year's budget, it was in the year before. Yeah.
Oh, it's a carryover. Yeah, okay, good. Righto. Thank you.
I'll speak for this motion. I think it's common sense. Too often we do one thing and then don't think of the next thing that we're doing, so I think it's smart to have that in the resolution. I do believe the officers and the local director for Bungle and Injune would be onto it anyway, but I think it doesn't hurt to put it in there, and I'll look forward to making it easier for volunteers. Volunteers are like gold, and we need to look after them and thank them for what they do. Does anyone else wish to speak?
I'll speak.
Please go ahead.
I'm going to support this. I think this is a really worthwhile investment driven by the community. It is the first thing you see coming into the towns are these signs. A vision a long time ago from a council and community members from years ago took the initiative to put those signs in, and I think it's upon us to put the right infrastructure there to ensure they do look their best. And I think this will be a worthy investment for the community of Injune and surrounds.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Does the mover wish to sum up?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I too would just like to say I'm pleased it's got over the line. We tried to get it in the last term, but we couldn't get it to the table. We couldn't get enough support, so I'm pleased.
Councillor, did you move it?
No, but he's speaking to the motion.
Oh, I thought you said did the mover want to sum up?
No, well then Councillor McMullen.
Sorry, Councillor McMullen.
Yeah, as I said, I'm pleased it's coming to the table. We tried to get it to the table in the last term, but it didn't come to fruition then, so it's been a while coming, but we're here.
Okay, does the mover wish to sum up?
In that case, can I just say better late than never? Thank goodness it's come to the table today.
Okay, we're going to vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Uh, 13.2, request for support of pump and engine project in Surat. I'd like to move the council acknowledge the officer's report and accept Mr White's offer to deliver the Southern Cross piston pump and Southern Cross diesel engine to Surat at no cost to council for the purpose of being installed on the Surat River Walk as a tourist attraction. And I just might add, also investigate with Mr White options to restore restore the engine and costings to be brought back to council before it is transported to the site if this is an option.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Because I was happy to second the first bit, but I'm just investigate. So to restore to what level?
Well,
Like, are you talking a
he's got
working
pictures
pump?
in there of one that has been done, and it might be that there is someone that does it, that we can send it there first and then get it back in a restored condition, which may be a lot more cost effective for...
So there's 20. My question was going to be, I notice it's going to cost $25,000, but that's actually to just get site preparation materials and footings and fences, and that's actually got nothing to do with the actual pump.
Yeah, so I'm saying that it might be that, there's someone over in the next, area that does it, and we get a quote and we get something back that is actually ready for the future, that we're investigating that, and that's been brought back to council, but we've said, yes, we will accept it.
To a working, so that pump would work. Is that what
not
you're...
necessarily. Like Mr. White will be quite knowledgeable and been able to what can be done, but it's sometimes a lot cheaper than bringing it all the way to Surat if we don't have someone to do it, that we might look and say, well, why don't we get it done first and then get it back here? So we're getting that price. We're not actually committing to that, but we're just asking that option.
So I'm happy to agree with that. Just thinking then, my question was going to be that we look at those pricings and maybe we can put that together with the pricings that are in here for the $25,000, which is for the the installation of it, and that would come back as a budget consideration for us.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm happy to put that in, and I think it would happen, but if you want to put 3, I'm happy to put that in as 3. Point 3 would be...
The project would come back as a budget.
Costings would come back in the 2023-24 budget.
The project we consider, that council...
Yeah, the project costing. Kel, please. Project costing.
Mr. Mayor, may
that council consider as part of the project costing, Kel?
Director Matt, would you like to say something?
Yeah, just talking to Mr. White, he's quite advanced in his preparations and obviously very excited to deliver the project. He's actually taken upon himself at the moment to find out how to sandblast it and paint it and that sort of thing. And so I guess council would want to consider whether that costing would be covered by us or him. But he's certainly proactive in that space, and he's actually trying to restore it as we speak.
Okay, well, that's great. So, but just really...
I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Just being cautious here. What do we sign, or what on the delivery of it? On the acceptance of this. This motion, the resolution goes through. What sort of is there any paperwork drawn up or anything along those lines? Any contracts,
through the chair, councillor, it's a good question to ask. Is there any conditions in relation to this? Certainly our assumption at this point, and certainly happy to go away and ask further questions of Mr. White, is that this is an unconditional transfer of an asset to council on the basis that we use it from a tourism perspective.
Yeah. Through the chair, councillor, we'd have to talk to building and facilities to get it added to our register, and then the maintenance is incumbent on council from there on in.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about things like, I'm just looking at the shed there. What if a flood goes through the shed? Do we still accept it? Things of that nature. Just being cautious, that's all.
Okay, Councillor Ladbroke.
Director Mark, I just wondered if we could speak to Mr. White, and he might be very happy to restore it himself. And, you know, he looks like he's pretty handy, and maybe offer to supply the materials. He's probably happy to restore it, and see if he needs some hand with, money with the material. And it's all done then, and I'm sure he'd be happy to help there.
Yeah, through the chair, that's a great idea, and we've certainly tabled options to Mr. White. We're sort of in early negotiations, but we're at a point where he's actually ready to restore it himself or take it to Southern Cross, which is the original supplier of the pump and engine, and they're going to try and refurbish it. So I guess the question is, where does the burden of cost lie, whether it's on council or us to
just
help
ask
him out?
him.
Yep,
Does he need a hand with stuff?
absolutely.
You know, which is a plus for everyone.
Okay, we've got a motion to, I'll speak to it. I think this is a wonderful thing that's been brought up by a long-term resident of Surat, and just so much history, and I think the plaque that will go with it will really tell the history, and we have a lot of visitors to our region, and they will appreciate the story and why it's here, and look forward to seeing it on site and saving some of our history for Surat. Does anyone else wish to speak? Then we'll, Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too just want to thank Mr. White for his generous donation to the Surat community of this historical pump. And when he told me the story about it, it was quite an interesting story about how it supplied the water to the Surat hospital. And so I think that this will be a great piece of history that we can keep in Surat, and it will just add to our Surat River Walk, and the hopefully we can put more historical objects along our Surat River Walk in time, which will be a great thing, not only for our locals but also for our tourists. So this is a great project for Surat.
Okay, righto, does anyone else wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0.
Looks like they're ready out there.
It's 10:30, yeah.
We'll get one more done, hopefully. 13.3, request for assistance, Mitchell Camp Draft.
I got a conflict. Sorry, Kelani just sent it to you. Lucky I'm a whiz with two fingers. You got to call it.
Yeah, no, I have.
Have you?
Yep.
Sorry. Item 13.3, description of the conflict is request for assistance, Mitchell Camp Draft, declaring council as myself, party with interest myself. Particulars of interest, I have a conflict as I'm the president of the Mitchell RSL and Combined Sports Club and the Mitchell Camp Draft under the umbrella of that organisation. Type of conflict is declarable conflict of interest, and I will leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Okay, so do we have a mover, Councillor Ladbroke?
Yep, I'd like to move that council approve the in-kind assistance with the exception of the cleaning of the shower and the toilet blocks during the event. Council has declined this in the past, and this is consistent with the practice for other organisations.
So I've just got a question for the mover. Would the mover be happy to put in there that we would clean the shower block before the event, as it's
because I would have thought that it would be cleaned.
Well, would you be happy to put that in the motion to clarify that?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
That it'll be clean, so they don't have to come in and clean a council asset.
No, that'll be good.
Righto. And do you have a question? Yeah, I do. Yeah, please go ahead.
Why do we decline cleaning it during the event? I mean, you're reflective of the council, and it's not, or do they do it? Like, do the Camp Draft people do it in between?
Well, it's going to cost us a lot of money.
Through the chair, the history is that they have.
They do it.
Yes.
So long as it's kept Yeah, like,
And that's,
nobody does it, it's gonna look pretty messy.
and that's in line with a lot of different organisations through the region who use council facilities. Council clean the facility beforehand, they clean it afterhand, but
Like
then
the
the
races
volunteers
or
do
anything.
it during the event.
Bassett Park.
Oh, I think it's a burden on volunteers, and that's why they're asking, so,
We'll do it.
yeah, but I do think if we could find a way to make it affordable, maybe they might just pay for it, but, you know, if we could get local cleaners and so forth, then it would be
Well,
something that
council
I
would have a
think.
local cleaner, wouldn't they?
We would hope so,
Someone that cleans the public toilets.
but it is on weekends and, yeah, so, yeah.
Can I just make one comment about that? I think it's often easier if you're on the ground there to say, look, somebody needs to step in and do something and clean, or we need to top up toilet paper. If you then have to bring a council cleaner in, you're talking a reasonable, I'm talking a financial expense, I'm sure. And it's often easier for the organisers to be on top of and be delegating with their volunteers and keeping it as they need to keep it on the event. I would think it's easier.
Asked for it, so I
Yeah.
just wondered why they ask if they normally would do it, that's all.
I would say it's just a burden for volunteers to have to do it, and it would be for so many associations, so if we could find a way in the future, it would be good. Councillor McMullen was happy to, were you happy to second that? Okay, does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, I'm happy with
It's
that.
shower and toilet block, Kel, just so we're... Blocks. Plural, yeah. Oh, if the mover's happy with that.
Yep.
Yeah, is the mover happy with that? The second
Yes, I
happy
am.
with that?
Just
Yep.
got a question.
Please go ahead.
Just in relation to the resolution, we wouldn't normally put the second line in the way that it, like council's approving in-kind assistance. We then don't say council has declined this in the past, we might put 3 in council note, or, like that's not, council's not resolving to council has declined. So I just don't understand why that's, it's just a bit clunky for me.
But yeah, I
so
mean,
the-
that's
I'm
up
happy
to the
with that.
mover and the seconder, but it does actually say what's happening.
I'm not saying don't put it
Yeah.
in, put it
So
as number 3,
through the
council
chair-
note. That council has previously declined this in the past, or something.
Is the mover happy with that?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Righto, we'll put it down to 3. Seconder happy with that? Okay, does anyone else wish to speak?
No.
We're going to go to the vote then. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. We'll break for morning tea. Back in half an hour. 14.1, application for road closure, section of road adjoining lot 66 on WV 1253. I move that this lay on the table till later in the meeting, as we're still waiting on some information. All those in favour?
Yes.
Okay, 9-0. Okay, moving on to 107, is it? Righto, 107, user agreement from Roma Show Society Incorporated. Councillor Ladbrook.
Yep. The item number is 14.2. The description is user agreement Roma Show Society. Declaring councillor is myself, Councillor Ladbrook. The person of interest and related party is my wife Alana, and the particulars of interest, my wife is president of the Roma Show Society. The type of conflict, a declarable conflict of interest, and the action I'll take and leave the room while the matter is being discussed and voted on.
Okay, any other conflicts? Okay, Councillor Ladbrook has left the room. I'd like to move that council, I should say, that council, 1, enter into a user agreement with Roma Show Society Incorporated for the use of the former Girl Guide huts for a future 2 years. 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to execute the user agreement with Roma Show Society Incorporated. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? I'll speak to it. I do believe that this has been a great opportunity to have the Show Society to have a permanent fixed home, fairly high profile in town, making use of the historic buildings of the Girl Guides huts. And they've also already got a grant as way to improve a council building. So you don't get any better than that when you have the user find money to upgrade council buildings. So it's a win-win, and certainly we'll be supporting this motion. Does anyone else wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Item 14.3. Well, actually, we'll just wait for the councillor.
With this Shadies one, all I wanted to clarify is whether there's no significance about the existing wood posts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not at all.
Okay, 14.3, installation of advertising signage, Shadies Lagoon, Lot 205 on R861. I'd like to move that council acknowledge that this report responds to resolution number OM/11.2022/33 and resolve to authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to progress discussions and finalise arrangements with the interested party in accordance with the fees outlined in the report as a matter of priority.
And just through the chair, the director does have a question to ask of council just in relation to the significance of the actual Shadies Lagoon timber structure.
Okay, well, we'll hear from our Roma director.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors. Just in relation to the existing structure, you'll be aware that the hardwood post design and discussions with Mr. Burton in relation to changing or replacing or building new. I just want to check in that if there was any historical significance or issues in relation to those existing posts, or we'll be replacing them with a newer structure.
Yeah, no, I don't think so, but I think it's mainly obviously honouring the name of Shadies Lagoon.
Yes.
And that's a big
And
thing, but also promoting a local, micro-tourism business. You know, all of those things are what we're trying to achieve, I would hope, by this motion. Okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
So is the intention for up the creek garage sign to go on the same sign as the words Shadies Lagoon?
It would be included as part. You'd have an overarching, it's Shadies Lagoon signage, and there would be an because of the yes, and I wanted to check because of the state of those posts, they are in fair to whatever condition. So if we were going to do it, we would look at a newer structure for that.
So you wouldn't consider having his beside it or near it, not on it?
I think the intent, Council, was that you would have the Shadies Lagoon and then underneath, between the two posts, would be the advertising sign to make use of that one structure.
Do you think that's a smart idea?
Less stuff to mow around. Like,
No.
Well, like Shadies Lagoon is Shadies Lagoon, has nothing to do with Up the Creek Garage as such. I'm just asking, could maybe his sign that he erects, he pays for, he puts where we want it? Like, I don't know, I'm just asking.
Yeah, well...
Isn't it taking away from Shadies Lagoon if you tack him on there somewhere?
Well, to me, what I would hope is it would be an upgrade on what we've got now.
Oh, I'm not saying don't replace the Shady Lagoon sign, but why are we putting him on that sign?
Well, if it's Shadies Lagoon is the main fact, and then we've got the advertising underneath, then we're probably going to do it a lot quicker than what council would do if we were doing it ourselves with all our other signs that we've got to do. So it might be, I don't think we're going to overshadow Shadies Lagoon sign. You know, it's actually improving both, and that's what he came originally to do.
If you put up the creek garage there, they're assuming that the garage is there. Well, it's not really there.
No, no,
That'd be a
no,
direction.
like the up the keep garage needs to be a component of it to say turn left or 50 metres or whatever. But it's a way to actually upgrade a sign that needs upgrading for Shady's Lagoon. That's what he's offering.
Mayor and Councillor, if you recall, Council there was a resolution we put out to tender for a commercial advertising on that sign, and there were effectively didn't receive any tenders. We received correspondence from Mr. Burton about it, but the intent, I guess, was that Council had a interest in redeveloping that Shady's Lagoon with some advertising.
So we're paying for our part.
They're constructing it.
No, I think all of it would be paid for by the,
On page 116.
which should hopefully be a win-win how we can get things done.
And with respect to a question might be in relation to we haven't proposed what the amount would be, the annual fee. Is that when you look at the different scheduler fees that we use for other ones, is that it was difficult for me to say, because I haven't designed the size of the new Shady's Lagoon and therefore haven't negotiated around the signage size, it was difficult to give you a number other than respectfully asking that in the resolution that you allow us to negotiate what a reasonable price is that's within the range of other signs in town.
Councillor Hancock?
Yeah, I've just got a question. Yep, so that clears it up. So Mr. Burton's going to pay for the whole sign, basically, the upgrade of the Shady's Lagoon sign, and he's going to put his advertisement on there. Just with the on page 117 with the drawing, I'm just wondering, is there going to be any negotiation on? It just looks like Shady's Lagoon might be a little bit lost in there. I'm just wondering, is it going to be proportion to what, when people see the sign, is it going to be the Up the Creek Museum? And I'm respectfully saying this because Mr. Burton's paying for it, but I'm just wondering, do we have any wriggle room on how big the Shady's Lagoon wording needs to be so that it's sort of not lost in the sign?
Well, I think that's the great thing about if we pass this, then the officers can go away and do it, and they're obviously, they're listening to what we're saying at the meeting. Like, obviously, we don't want to understate Shady's Lagoon.
Yes.
So I think they would be working on something that will not do that.
So if we say yes today, we're not saying yes to this, are we? We're saying that you guys are still going to negotiate.
I mean, that's proposed, and it'd be in fairness, it's probably something similar to that, but in proportion to the Shady's Lagoon and its overall size and look, that's something that we would need to work through with Mr. Burton.
Sure.
Sorry, Councillor. And I'm mindful then, as the Mayor's, I guess, indicating, is that if, and I agree, in relation to the prominence, it's about Shady's Lagoon, and we should not have that lost in relation to that signage. And so I'll do my best in relation to ensuring that the prominence of Shady's is the main part.
That's why I brought it up, because I was concerned about that. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Burkett, then O'Neill.
Yeah, this is not sort of a question, just that I don't think he's got measurements and everything, but he hasn't actually got measurements on the Shady's Lagoon. He's done every other measurement, but if you're looking at the scale, the Shady's Lagoon's only 200 mil, so looking at the equivalent spacing, but I think he's left that bit alone. So, it's nothing for us to say we could have it, that high, so it's significant. I think he's just concentrated on what he's going to fix his to, because I'd still like to see the similar style of sign that's there and have his down below, whereas he hasn't depicted that. So I think there's a bit more negotiation to go ahead there, but
that's fair.
Yeah, Councillor O'Neill.
Just a couple of points. I support the signage. I think the approach that Rob's made to us, I think we can accommodate having signage on that corner to direct, customers and tourists to his business. I just wonder whether it would be more appropriate that we, as a council, invest in the actual upgrade of the Shady's Lagoon sign itself, and then we own that. We know what it's going to look like, and we're happy with it. Showcasing and telling people what the lagoon is, and then we work with Rob about putting his sign attached underneath. And I think it's admirable that Mr. Burton has offered to pay for the entire thing. But if we, as a council, on behalf of the community, construct the sign, work with Rob to put his sign up, and then there's a commercial arrangement, just as there is, it's in the report, for the likes of McDonald's out at Bassett Park, for their business, advertising where they are, then it's cleaner. I just had a look in the budget, and I note that we allocated $200,000 in the budget to the Roma Big Rig Pond landscaping and irrigation. I don't know where that's at. I haven't heard too much about it. But we could look to draw some funds from that investment back into Shady's Lagoon, do the sign, and then a commercial arrangement with Up the Creek Garage to put his big sign on. I think that's appropriate, but we own the actual Shady's Lagoon sign.
Okay, well, I'd rather go with the motion that I've got now with a little bit of extra. CEO, could you give us that wording, please? Point three, maybe, or...
Through the chair...
Sorry.
So it's all right. A very simple way of doing it to capture the signage attribution would be point 3 being ensure Shady's Lagoon is appropriately acknowledged. But if you want to shift money from an existing project to another, it's just we can put some wording around that. It just depends about, Mr. Mayor, whether you would like that as part of that point.
Yeah, no, I'd rather go with this, and I'll explain it in the debate. Ensure Shady's Lagoon is appropriately acknowledged as
part of the overall signage?
Yeah, well, I would actually
concept?
say ensure Shady's Lagoon is significantly acknowledged instead of appropriate.
Yep, okay.
Significantly acknowledged.
As part of the overall design?
As part of the overall design as the name of the
lagoon has
lagoon.
local significance?
It's name of the lagoon.
Has local, yeah, right.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Before anything happens with the sign, it'll be approved by council anyway, won't it?
Yeah.
It's got to come back in here, and
That's not what the resolution says.
No, just through the chair, you have been to a market process in relation to the construction of the Shady's
Mr.
Lagoon
Burton-
signage. So what this recommendation allows council officers to do, should it be passed today, is to go away and finalise everything and get everything up and running. So no, the design wouldn't necessarily come back to council, and hence why at the moment this third element is being suggested, just to make sure we're capturing the debate in the room.
Yep.
Yeah, and
so our director will, Dean will say yay or nay to the sign.
Well,
Is that what we're doing?
the other thing is, if through the CEO, if there's any concerns, you would bring it back anyway, wouldn't you?
Certainly would.
Yeah. So if it's not going to be significantly acknowledged as part of the overall design, if that can't happen, it would come back to council.
Yeah.
Beg your pardon?
Just wondering if acknowledged is the right word, like it's significantly.
Well, it's really.
I know what we're trying to say, but just that word's not quite working for me. But anyway,
acknowledged as part of the overall. Got to say something about the facility, get rid of 2 lagoons.
Shady's Lagoon, do you want that?
Because
No.
I'm sure Shady's Lagoon is significantly acknowledged as part of
As the place name or something?
place name of this facility or something like that.
Yeah.
I've got a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Just without going through the whole report again, is it a given that that the council actually will own the sign afterwards?
Please,
Like we own the infrastructure, do we?
He pays for it.
No, we own the land. So do we own the infrastructure? Like, will we own that sign once it's erected?
Yes.
Yeah, Deputy Mayor.
I'd just like to comment, any infrastructure built on a council land becomes council facility.
Okay. That's a given then. Righto. Thank you.
Again, yes, that's the probably the ownership reality is that any asset that's built upon our land becomes, at its base, the landowner's asset. The reality is you could also further improve the resolution if you were ever concerned, the recommendation if you were concerned that this might be unclear to the person who's actually willing to construct this. Basically, through the chair, you might want to consider acknowledging that the Shady's Lagoon signage would be the asset of the council.
Okay, so I'm happy to put point 4, just to clarify that the signage, if erected, would become the property of council, and have a time frame of, use for the advertising.
Sorry, that's not clear now. The signage that Mr. Burton's proposing, the up the creek, if he's paying for the right to advertise, it remains his. The sign. That's not clear now.
And so through the chair, there is the possibility that if he's incorporated Shady's Lagoon into that goes if he goes.
That's correct.
No, the signage, if erected, will be the property of council and have a time frame for use of advertising, except for up the creek garage sign portion. So he can take his own portion away if that is the ability to do that.
Take your portion, Mr. Burton.
Yeah, Mr. Burton could if it happens. Okay. Councillor Guthrie.
Can I just say I'm getting really confused with this last one, and I'm very mindful that in this term we have had many groups who have had donations of audiovisual material that's been affixed to halls, etc., and it's very clearly expressed that once it's affixed to a council building or council asset, can we maybe, rather than get so confused with those wordings, have the same wording that we had before when we were talking about Mitchell, or about another location with toilets, and make a comment that our current council process is that, or it's acknowledged that the actual signage becomes, to me that's bringing in so many different aspects that I'm now really confused and going, it's more confusing than it needs to be. I know what you're trying to achieve. In line with current council practice or whatever.
Okay, so we'll get rid of 4 and say in line with, if you have some wording there, councillor.
Maybe if we can go back to Kellen, whatever the wording was for the Mitchell, that according to practice about
Council's policy, or is
was about won't fit here. Yeah. Like the line of thinking fits here, but the wording won't fit here.
So.
And the complication, of course, is what we agreed to last week with the signage at the sale yards.
Yeah.
Do we, because they've installed it on a trailer, do we own the trailer?
No, but it's not.
That's a bit different because it's mobile. This one here will be concrete into the ground and will be there for longevity as a fixed.
On council land, and they're paying for it.
But it's mobile. You just put it, you just tow it away and it's gone.
Okay, well, just try again. In line with council
Practice
practice, the signage that will be erected
will become part of
Council's assets.
council-owned assets and property.
council-owned asset after the period of the, yeah.
Is that saying that in 5 years' time, when the up the creek portion might need to be updated, will council then have to pay to upgrade a business owner's signage?
No. Yep, please
I
go.
suggest line 4 should be the replacement of the existing infrastructure will be council will own the replaced what we've got there like for like will be council property and he can attach his sign to it. That's what we're trying to say. Like a lot of these other ones we've got, Joe Bloggs owns the sign and they rent the spaces out. So.
But that's the point I made before, Councillor McMullen. The clean way to approach this is if council constructs the Shadys Lagoon sign, because that's ours, and then Mr Burton puts his sign on that. It's the same as what happens with McDonald's.
For a period of 5 years.
For 5 years, and he pays the annual fee, and because when we haven't spoken about the annual fee yet.
We have.
So,
I've already mentioned it.
Well, if he's going to put it up and...
Okay, Councillor McMullen, do you have some wording for that? I'm happy to put that in there.
Yeah, I think it's probably safer.
The replacement of the existing infrastructure remain the ownership of Maranoa Regional Council.
Yeah.
Remain in the ownership.
The existing Shady Lagoons infrastructure, I suppose.
Replacement of existing
Infrastructure, Shady Lagoons.
replacement of the existing infrastructure remain in the ownership of council.
At the end of the term? So you're talking about...
No, that's
the Shadys Lagoon.
Forever.
The replacement of the existing Shadys Lagoon.
The replacement of the existing infrastructure in brackets, the Shadys Lagoon sign.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And through the chair.
We've already got it up there, Shadys Lagoon.
Anyway, through the chair, what this might help you do is that any design that's developed incorporates the ability to extract that up the creek sign at some point. And you're making that quite clear.
What we need, to be honest, is the sign and then like a frame space of a certain dimension that's put there, and then he can put his actual sign. Yeah, but I agree with Councillor O'Neill. It's going to be cleaner, and you're not he shed, she shed.
But if he's going to pay for it, let him pay for it.
Well,
we don't want to pay.
Through the chair, I think hearing the debate in the room is that you certainly want to own and control the infrastructure around Shadys Lagoon, and the advertising signage should be able to be removed at some point. The reality of who pays, you could negotiate that with, again, to progress discussions and finalise arrangements, if you would like officers to finalise those arrangements, whereby Mr Burton may still be very happy to pay for a structure that allows the two, because it gives him access to be able to advertise his business effectively. It's just that what you're trying to capture here is that it has a significance to you from a local heritage perspective. You need to retain control over that portion, and you need to make that clear today so that Mr Burton understands what's being negotiated.
Councillor Guthrie.
And I think we need the clarification, because when you read Mr Burton's letter, it may be that he's assuming something different to what our discussions are here, and in the interests of making sure that there's clarity, I know that Director Dean understands where we're coming from, but that may not be shared by Mr Burton, and it could become unstuck unless we're very clear in the resolution.
Righto. Okay, so Councillor Hancock.
Mr Mayor, can we change in point 3, can we just change a significant acknowledged to significantly recognised? Recognised is the right word, because we
happy with that.
and recognise that it's Shadys Lagoon.
Yeah, happy with that. Okay, so I'm going to... do you have a question?
Well, you're seeking a second. I think Jeff did.
No,
do we have any more questions before we go on to that?
Well, if you're still having a discussion, that doesn't tell Mr. Burton that the design is to be approved by council. Not his sign, not his up the creek garage, but the Shadys Lagoon design, that needs to be signed off by council. It says that council will own it, but it doesn't say the design of it has to be approved by council.
No, but if the officers are at all concerned about it, they will bring it back, I'm sure.
We spoke about before.
But if they don't, then, you know, they would be happy
Maybe
with it.
put finalised arrangements and specifications with interested party. That way you're covering the sign specification in that conversation.
The biggest thing is this has been going round. We missed the whole season last season.
Just one word.
What is the word, Councillor
Arrangements
Burkett?
and specifications. That way it covers the signage, frame size,
So
all
if
that.
it's not approved by the director, it won't go up.
But and
that what-
specifications in
simple as that?
brackets, including design. Because Rob's already done a design, but we haven't signed off on that. And I know that we're verbaling things here for the staff, but the staff will enact a resolution. This is our way of giving our direction to the staff as to what they're going to do.
Okay, I'm going to move that council acknowledge that this is a report response to resolution number OM/11.2022-33 to authorise the Chief Executive Officer or Delegate to progress discussions and finalise arrangements and specifications, including design with the interested party in accordance with the fees outlined in the report as a matter of priority. 3, ensure Shadys Lagoon is significantly recognised as the place name of this facility. 4, the replacement of the existing infrastructure. The Shadys Lagoon sign remains the ownership of council. Do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? I'll speak to it. There's many jokes about, you know, how long things take, and I think we need to make sure this is not a joke. We need to make sure that we get onto this and to get it happening. We talk about that we want to be involved in growing visitor business. I believe that not only has a business or a resident highlighted the fact that our sign for this facility is in poor repair, but at the same time came up with a deal that two things could benefit and happen at once. So I'm really looking forward, and I have faith in the director for Roma, or the CEO obviously, or the director for Roma, whoever does it, that they can progress something and get it to happen. Or if they can't, they might be able to find out what can happen that could benefit and be brought back to council. So to remind councillors, this has already taken a whole year. People have missed seasons, and we say that we are actually proactive about helping local business. And I do not believe that the community members involved would believe that. So I do think that we need to get on with it. I'm not in favour of building a sign because I know how much work that council has ahead of it and the timeframes it takes for us to build something. It's much better for someone else to build it. And as long as we make sure that Shadys Lagoon is significantly recognised as the place in which we're at, and if we can upgrade the sign for Shadys as well as help identify a local small business that people struggle to find, then it's a win-win for everyone. So I'll certainly be supporting this motion. Does anyone wish to speak against the motion or for the motion?
I've got a question.
Please go ahead.
If we, if this is the way it goes today, and Mr. Burton's offer of erecting the sign and funding it,
He's not erecting it, I think.
Funding it is supported by council. Surely, then we would put an estimate on what that cost is, and that we would waive advertising fees for a period of time, given that Mr. Burton is funding this himself.
Yeah, I'm happy with the motion. I believe that the CEO and or delegate will do the negotiations as it's in the motion. Okay.
I'd like to say something.
Please go ahead.
Just speaking for the motion, this is a good example of someone, a member of the community, persevering with something and talking to council. And I feel it should be a well-known thing that council's open for business. So excuse me, open for business well and truly, and yeah, don't be afraid to come forth, to the council with something like this. And yeah, I certainly acknowledge that persistence from the member of the community.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak?
I'd like to move an amendment.
Please go ahead.
A point 5, that further advice be provided to council on the overall costings on the supply of the sign, and that council consider a waiving of advertising fees at a future council meeting.
I won't accept that amendment. I believe it's going to happen anyway with the negotiation. So does the mover have a seconder? Councillor Taylor?
I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Just so I know how to vote, because I'm a bit concerned as well about a community member paying for a sign and then council charging them fees for that sign. And when you say that you think that that's going to happen just within the negotiations, I'm actually confused, because with this motion we're actually telling the staff that in point 2, you're authorising the Chief Executive Officer to progress, discuss with the interested party in accordance with the fees outlined in the report. The fees outlined in the report is a fee that that our staff will go and actually put to Mr. Burton on a sign that he's actually going to pay for. So what you said, Mr. Mayor, actually contradicts what's actually in the resolution. That's what I'm a bit concerned about.
No, it's not, because there's a whole lot of negotiations.
I've moved an amendment, and there's a second.
Well, sorry, I should have asked a question. Sorry about that. Through the Mayor to Director Dean. Director Dean, with the resolution that's up there and the fees that you've noted in the report, in your negotiations, would you be suggesting that, as it stands now, that there would be a fee attached? We don't know what that fee is, but there would be some sort of a fee attached. Is that the direction you're getting from this? I just want to be clear.
There would certainly be a decision around what a fee could be charged in relation to that size and design of the sign. Then, with respect to whether we charge that fee or not, that could well be included as part of the negotiations in relation to a fee waiver. You still have to set the fee, and then there would need to be a request to waive that fee. And so, unless today council was more specific around to consider a waiving of any fee, but in the spirit of those negotiations in number 2 was that all those things my intention was to be all-encompassing about negotiating a fair and reasonable arrangement with Mr. Burton.
Thank you.
But if you want to be more specific or clear, obviously that's an option for council.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, does the mover wish to speak to the amendment?
I'm happy to speak to the amendment. I think by including point 5, it's an indication to Mr. Burton that if 1 to 4 is supported, that we are welcoming of his offer to invest in the signage, and that because of that investment, we won't charge him a fee for a particular period, which will be considered in an upcoming council meeting. All I've included there is that advice be provided to council. It doesn't stall any of the other points, but it allows us to further consider this, given the good gesture of Mr. Burton to invest in the signage of Shady's Lagoon.
I'll speak against the motion. I don't believe it's needed. I think this is part of the deal that we have taken more than a year and really haven't got anywhere. We will miss another season. I believe that we've got high-level officers that can do this work in a common sense way. I don't believe we need to be putting that level of detail in a resolution. Does someone wish to speak for the amendment? Does the mover wish to sum up?
Thanks very much, Chair. This doesn't delay anything, and in fact gives council the option to do a good deed by the person who's willing to invest in it and consider that at a future council meeting. The staff don't have the authority to waive fees. It's this body that can waive fees of council, and so I encourage councillors to support the amendment so that we have an opportunity to do something good by someone that's investing in a community asset.
Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment? All those against the amendment?
Against.
5-4, if I can call for a division. Okay, we have the mover. So, yeah, 5-4.
Yeah, I was against.
Oh, sorry, 4-5. Yeah, 4-5. No, 4-5. You're correct, Councillor McMullen. Okay, so I don't know whether I've spoken to the motion. Anyway, I'll speak to the motion again.
You did.
I did? Right, okay. Does someone wish to speak against the motion? Or for the motion? Councillor Burkett?
Sorry, what's the motion? Sorry, what's the
It's
motion?
the original motion on the screen.
Okay.
Without 0.5.
Yeah, we need to take 0.5 off. We're just working on that at the moment.
Can I speak while this is going on?
Yep, you can.
Even though I voted for the amendment, I still in favour of the entirety of the motion. I do have faith in either the CEO or Director Dean in following through with this. I do agree. I think it's been longer than a year. I think this has been getting talked about our whole term, to be honest, and things have got to a certain stage and stopped. So I'm hoping that this will sort this out before tourist season, and I'd like to keep Mr. Burton on side. He's doing a great job.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? I'll sum up. Yeah, I think you're right, and it might even been longer than that. So I believe the least that council has to do with this, as far as nearly getting into areas that slow things down, I don't believe if council put the sign up, it would not be done this year, looking on previous history. So I believe the only way is to work with the person in the community to have a win-win of upgrading the sign as well as helping a local business. So if we say we're about helping local business, we need to support this motion because, it has been going on and on and on. So I'll certainly be supporting this. I believe that if there's any hiccups, the officers will come back and bring a report back to council. So I'm very comfortable with this motion. Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0.
Mr. Mayor, just on that, just a quick question to the CEO. The fee for the signage that will have to come back to council for consideration to be included in our fees and charges. When do you envisage that how quickly could that come back to council?
Through the chair, sorry, I'll just get that resolution in front of me. Through the chair, the negotiations of the charge would be this this resolution actually allows us to do that because we're actually finalising the arrangements, including the fees.
Doesn't have to come
You would,
just approve them.
yes.
It has to be any fee and charge applied to anything of council has to be embedded in the fees and charges, which is approved by council. So I'm just wondering what.
Yep. So this. in answer
That's
to your
right, Councillor
question,
McMullen.
Councillor,
You can't charge, the
this
staff
actually,
can't charge something that we haven't got in our fees and charges.
this does allow us to go and negotiate a charge. However, we would, for completeness, in our 23-24 budget fees and charges, should be adding that to that. Why? To be transparent in relation to the purpose of fees and charges, which is to disclose any charging.
Yeah,
Would
that's
council
right.
agree? Yep.
But CEO, could you take that on notice? And you will check that anyway about what you can and can't do, is that correct?
Yes. The resolution you've got allows us to go away and negotiate and finalise everything, including the fee and charge. It's just that this resolution allows us to do that. But for completeness, when you're setting that fee should be included in your fees and
We don't
charges.
have a fee and charge for this sign.
How do you mean?
Anyway,
We don't have a fee and charge in our fees and charge schedule for this sign.
excuse me, Councillor O'Neill, we'll move on with the meeting. You've heard that the CEO will get advice to make sure it is all in accordance with the Local Government Act. 14.4, Community Grants, Non-Financial Assistance Sponsorship Policy. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hancock.
I move that Council 1 adopt policy community grants, non-financial assistant and sponsorship policy. 2, repeal any previous versions of the community grants and non-financial assistant policy, removing any versions from the website and policy register. 3, update the website and policy register with the revised policy.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
Mr Mayor,
Please go ahead.
I have a question to ask, and I don't have a problem with the actual policy, and I actually applaud the fact that we're now bringing in an additional part to it. But what I can't get my head around, and I've gone back and looked and looked and looked, so I'm asking the question sincerely. So if you look at page 123, and we've got now sponsorship, and we've got different applications being assessed by council officer with approval by one director, or you've got even the regional events with approval by one director. My question is, under our current process and our budgeting approach, where we have sponsorship budget of a certain amount of money, like $55,000, and currently today we've got the current balance is $27,391. How are we intending then to keep our head around as a council as to what is happening? Is it automatically being done and we just retrospectively find out? Or is it that it's going to be factored into that a requirement that it comes to council? I'm asking like a number of questions here because they're all linked to the same thing. Or are we intending in the budgetary process to allocate money under the old sponsorship budget, and instead of putting money to one bucket, we're going to put it into the localities and say we're going to delegate money back to this locality for the director and a council officer to make a decision. So my question is, the practical aspects about how this is going to operate. I don't have an issue with the actual policy at all. It's more about the practical approval process and keeping track of the amount of money, and then do we need to do a budget adjustment? Do we need, like, just keeping our head around how much is being spent in which particular area, and is it equitably being determined?
Through you, Mr Mayor. So in terms of sponsorship, when it comes to council, officers and directors can approve up to $2,000. So, and we have a register which we'll keep recording of how much that goes through, depending on which LDO or which directorate that comes from. We keep a register of how much is being approved, so we'll keep an idea of how much is still left in that budget. But in terms of like significant events and destination events, so it's anything more than $2,000 will still come to the council table, and we'll still be able to provide how much budget is left.
So the question once again is, are we going to be routinely provided with an email that says, oh, by the way, we've just approved this and this, so we're actually keeping on the front foot and knowing exactly what's being approved? Or is it retrospectively going to come and at the end of every quarter we get told this is now how much money's left in? So I'm just trying to get my head around making sure that we're enabling this to operate with clarity and with fairness and equity, and in the spirit of the policy, having it operate.
So if I could, so a couple of things. I think your question was, we hadn't envisaged splitting the sponsorship account, so it's 55,000 in this year's one. I think the document that Georgie's provided you is a historical one around, because part of this is around people making application and we're approving at a director level. But as far as being oversubscribed will always be a challenge. So that would be a step. I think at the briefing that we had with councillors that was part of the conversation around how do you manage oversubscription. And so there is a budget process as we go through the year that if we do need to, if we've exhausted that sponsorship account, that we could talk to council about whether they would like to top that up. So we hadn't envisaged splitting that to area directorates. And then just giving some thought without talking to the CEO is that in relation to your question about being kept informed, is that going forward in the next at least maybe towards the end of this month or into March, you'll start to see the first of the area director reports coming to briefings. And so I think there's a forum or a process there where we'll be able to keep councillors updated in relation to what sponsorships have been approved for the month, and that we have a rolled up number in relation to that. So that could be a way of keeping you councillors informed.
And I think, Director Dean, you've actually answered my question. If there is going to be directorate reports coming to council meetings, this is going to be part of a bigger picture that I wasn't aware of. So I think I applaud that particular approach. It's just about making sure that we're not getting blindsided. We go, oh, there's no money left in kitty,
I understand,
without knowing how it's been the under or oversubscription and the types of local events being funded. So thank you for that.
Sorry, with that, Councillor Guthrie, is that, so if council did, if the director did approve a local or regional event under $2,000, officers have a bit of a process that we will inform councillors of what event or initiative has been sponsored, when it is, if there is any invite to councillors or if there's any role to play, and the amount that we sponsored.
Councillor Taylor.
I'm on page 123 of the non-financial assistance, which I'm assuming is in kind.
Correct.
Excuse me, Chair, I can't hear Councillor Taylor.
Sorry. The non-financial assistance, which is the in-kind, and in that, from $501 to $5,000, it's assessed by a council officer with approval of a director. That's a lot of money. Like, in-kind is still, you still put that towards some work order or whatever. So, and then from over 5,001, it is with the discretion, that by director with the discretion to approve or take to council. I think $5,000 is a lot of money.
Well, let's keep that to the debate. That's not really a question.
Yes, it was.
Well, what's the question?
Well, how did we come up with $5,000 for in-kind, but only $2,000 for sponsorship?
Well, I think one is cash and the other one is what we can do in an organisation with
But
that.
we still allocate those hours of employees' time as money, as such.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, but anyway, but we had a workshop about this and we got it. Well, not a workshop, but we had a briefing on it, didn't we? So these all came up. Was this the same as the briefing?
Correct. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Well, I must have missed that.
So okay. Any other questions?
Well, I don't get an answer to this question.
So
how do we come up with the $5,000 for the in-kind, where it's only $2,000 for sponsorship?
In coming up with the $5,000 is that can be difficult sometimes putting a total value in terms of in-kind assistance, where it might include staff wages, and then if they're doing Saturday or Sunday and then after hours, it can be sometimes a bit difficult to put a correct dollar figure to it. And then if we're providing tables and chairs, to put an exact dollar figure to that, and other pieces of equipment that we might also...
And some aren't on the hire list.
Correct. So it's just giving a bit of a balance that if, an amount came to Director Dean in terms of $4,000, that he would have some discretion over whether he's able to provide that or not.
that's right, because that was in that briefing we got, that they've got a higher limit in case they get the amount wrong. Like for instance, they mightn't have all the costings in front of them, so it might be, they might think it's 2 or 3, but it might go to 4 or 4.5, and they've still got delegation. That's what it was about.
I must have missed that, because I honestly don't remember the $5,000 bit.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Hancock.
I've just got a question with the non-financial assistance. I'm fine with how it sits in the policy, and so I don't know whether this is regarding this policy or whether it's more when it comes to budget, but I just want to flag my question, is sometimes we find that our in-kind assistance budget goes over a fair bit, but we're actually still putting to that budget the stuff like a fee waiver for a rental of a hall. Now, I understand that that does cost money. I understand that we need to get that and record that, and that is it's a definite financial contribution that we're giving to the community, but we're transferring that money out of that budget, which isn't actually a real cost. So I'm just wondering whether it's in this policy or whether it's in our budgeting, that we can have a section of that in-kind financial assistance that sort of like zeroes that out, because we seem to be topping that. We need to top that in-kind financial up because we've got some costings that go to it that's not an actual real costing to council. Do you understand what I'm saying, Officer Georgie?
Through the chair, what you're really talking about, say, is higher fees, where it's not necessarily a cost, it's actually just foregone revenue.
Yes, that's right.
And do we address that as part of this policy, foregone revenue? We do. We have had that ability, the discretion from an operational perspective to forego that revenue of hire of certain facilities for certain reasons, and have a long history of that. And I guess there's a number of ways to do that. Is we've just done that under our operational delegations. However, I agree, it's potentially the most correct way of doing it is not including it in this process and actually saying, look, it's just foregone revenue. It's not adjusting a budgetary cost, it's just foregone revenue. But there needs to be some transparent process with appropriate delegations in relation to that.
And that's exactly right. And because it's still, for our community, they're still getting a, whatever, $500 waiver or something, so that's still costing for council because we're forgoing that revenue. So it's probably not in this, but I was just flagging it as part of this because it's a policy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I do, thank you.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I'm very happy to move this motion. We have been running off our community grants and non-financial assistance policies, the same policies for a long time. So I think it is actually time that we do have a look at this and upgrade them and move with the times. I'm really happy to have the sponsorship policy added into this that provides a bit of clarity around a process with sponsorship for the community. So I think that that's a real asset, not only to the community but to the staff. And I actually am happy to go with what the policy says in relation to the assessments and approvals, especially with noting the officer said that with any sponsorships, councillors would be notified by an email to keep us up to date on just knowing what we are sponsoring and how much we're sponsoring. And then with the added in that we're going to have a report of some means so that we can keep a handle and keep an eye on the actual sponsorship value and how much is in that budget. So I'm really happy to support this. I want to thank the staff for their really hard work in pulling all this together, and I want to thank them for the fact that they fully understood the old policy before they went and just threw the whole baby out with the bathwater, which they did not do. So I just want to thank them very much for that, because I think that it's just got better as they've developed this policy for the community.
Okay, does someone wish to speak for the motion or against the motion? I'll speak for the motion. I'd like to congratulate the CEO and the staff involved with this. This is actually a little bit of common sense that we're actually giving some authority about things that tend to take up quite a lot of time, and I think we can give a better service for our community groups by being able to let the officers at a lower level make decisions. I would not be worried about budgets and so forth, because the same officers are responsible probably for more money than this, that they actually have to make sure that in generally, it can last for a whole year. So they'll be watching it. I believe the directors will be watching and making sure they don't overspend unless there's major trends, and I'm sure they're going to brief council on it. You know, that probably wouldn't be any more than what council's done in the previous years, and I'm sure they'd bring it to council if they were seeing any trends happening with that. So this is, yeah, freeing up a little bit of bureaucracy, giving delegations to the right people, and letting the local bosses that council have decided to operate locally, giving them some decision making so we can probably be more timely with our community groups. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Does the move wish to sum up? Righto, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Sorry. Thank you.
So if you want to,
so the
Sculptures Outback.
yeah.
Okay. Maybe whether acknowledging
Okay. Item 14.5, sponsorship request, Sculptures Outback 2023. I'd like to move that council approve access to lot plan 210 VVV or WV 1624 to the Sculptures Outback Committee for the purpose of an art exhibition from June to September 2023 on the condition that all transport and main roads approvals are obtained where applicable. 2, sponsor the 2023 Sculptures Outback exhibition to the value of $20,000 cash sponsorship. 3, draw the funds from sponsorship budget GL 2887.2249.2001. 4, assist Sculptures Outback and facilitate in-kind assistance requests to ensure the site is presentable for the duration of the 2023 event. And number 5, include admin assistance. How would wording be, CEO, as far as their requests for some... so include admin assistance from, like, from yourself or delegate, or
Just
Secretariat
Through the chair, I'm
support.
assuming,
secretarial support.
okay, so certainly if you need to specify what that assistance is, say, like, for argument's sake, like what we did last year was administrative assistance in relation to the preparation of any, or you could say
And
secretarial
asked-
assistance in relation to the preparation of any administrative requirements, duties. But I think you did help them out in relation to the preparation of the traffic management plan
Yeah, we
and
did,
the permit.
all of that, yeah.
Yeah.
Which arguably was going to be covered as part
Yep.
of the income.
So through the chair, the directors advised that this was all going to be covered as part of the in-kind
Yeah, yeah.
assistance.
But we might, I just would like to put a motion to actually note it, include
Okay.
secretary.
We did that last time, didn't we?
I know, but they've asked for something different than last time.
Mr.
So it might be more like they, from what I understand, some of the volunteers did some work that if we provided secretarial support, we would be doing. as far
Can we
as-
use the word? Can we use the word administrational assistance? Because secretarial assistance sort of is a
bit
bit
old-fashioned. Yep.
Well, it's just a bit like being a secretary of a club, which for the for a community, whereas
just that I've asked
administration
for
would cover administration.
Through the chair, do you feel comfortable with item number 4, assisting Sculptures Outback and facilitating kind assistance requests to ensure the site is presentable for the duration of the 2023 event, including administrative assistance, so that it's clear that as part of the in-kind assistance, it is that administration that you're including as part of that, and it's just whether you wanted to add anything around the promotion of the event.
Well, including extra administrative assistance, because they're actually asking for
additional,
extra,
Yep. Okay.
as requested.
I'm happy to second it, Mr. Mayor.
Righto.
Do you want to put something in around acknowledge council and all promotion of the event?
Well, yeah, we can. You want to put, is the seconder happy to acknowledge council and all?
Yep.
In all promotion of this event, just the standard stuff.
Okay.
Happy with that.
Yep.
I've got an
Never
amendment,
even
Mr.
seen him.
Mayor,
Please,
consider.
please go ahead.
It'll be number
My hand up
6.
for a week.
That council work with the Sculptures Outback Committee to complement a full weekend celebrating our region's art and culture. Because if you look at the date that this event is occurring, you'll recall
That's right.
yesterday. Yeah. So
Work with Sculptures Committee.
work with the Sculptures Outback Committee to complement a full weekend celebrating our region's art and culture.
Following on from yesterday's briefing.
A full weekend.
I'm happy with that.
Well, the mover, we think the second, but the mover has to be up.
Just cutting time.
Yeah. So that's extra than what we did last year.
Well, it's just making them aware.
I can't tell you what it is, but think back to the workshop we had yesterday and our external people.
It's about making a weekend of it instead of a day of it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm happy with that as the mover. Okay, so that's the motion. Can everyone see that? Righto. I believe that I'll speak first. This is a nationally recognised event by the sheer fact the visitors that come to this event come from all over the nation. It will grow every year, and I believe if council keeps supporting it, and with the good support of the volunteers in the subcommittee of Roma and Bungle Gallery, this will become a national event. So that's how big this will become, and I would look forward to, in the future, this would run from Easter to the end of the September school holidays. And this is an event because of the foresight of people in that subcommittee, some who tried to get this off the ground in the last term of council, and I'm very glad that it's supported in this term of council, that this will just keep growing and growing and growing. And when you go past and you see even at 9 o'clock at night, people are going and having a look, going for walks and having a look at the sculptures. This is an event that just has legs. It does not discriminate against anyone. Anyone can pull up. Anyone can be involved. We've had national, figures that have actually purchased art from this. It is becoming extremely well known, and it has only just started. So certainly, as Mayor, very happy to support this motion. And as I said, I believe it will become a national event. It already is nationally known by word of mouth, and it will keep growing. And we also have the benefit for our local artists as well as artists from all over the country. So it is so well supported that I'm very happy with this motion, and I believe this should be the minimum that we do, and that we should be looking at supporting in more ways in the future. So the volunteers that were shoveling crusher dust in the first year just really be part of the future future years. Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Burkett?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd follow on from your comments. I totally agree, but I think it's the little 1%ers in communities, and one sculpture on its own stops people in the town. And I think having something like this display, which has been all year round, and is a real game changer. And I think it'd be good to have one in every community, to be honest, because I think it does draw attention to the town. And I think if we can combine it with this other project moving forward, it'll even be a bigger event and create more economic stimulus for the town.
Okay. Does someone, Councillor O'Neill?
I'll speak in favour. I think this is a relatively small investment, but has massive returns for our community. The arts and culture community that makes up the broader region is strong, and all credit to the leaders in this particular group, and I highlight Ian and Anne Galloway for what they've done in promoting this and making sure that it's front and centre in council's minds. Even at an art gallery opening on Friday night, Ian was straight up talking about this year's exhibition and what it means for their committee. I think the comments around what council can do going forward, I think we really need to look at that in this year's budget. As the sculpture, the permanent sculptures continue to grow and work their way back down towards the big rig, I think it's upon us as a council to look at how to continue to beautify that area. You talk to any travellers coming into town and they'll always talk about the cockatoos. It's a feature for our community now, and all credit to these tireless volunteers who have been able to get this up and off the ground, and I think they will be ecstatic. The council again is supporting this for another year.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? I'll sum up. Yeah, definitely also repeat that the leaders, John and Anne, have been really driving this as well, but also all the other volunteers. And as they've said to me, the average age of the committee is past, in retirement age as far as working age, and they made it happen. They were the ones that did the soup for the event that they had, and did it. It was a very classy event. So congratulations for everyone to be involved. This will grow. This is a national event now, and it will just become another thing the Maranoa is known for. And you never know. Hopefully, as it grows and grows, it might even have satellites in our other communities. So I know that there's people in Mitchell that would like to have a sculptures and believe that they might have thought of the idea first. So we look forward to the future and what it comes as far as art in the Maranoa. So on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
Okay, 9-0. 17.1, Queen's Commonwealth Canopy. I'd like to move a report be prepared for an upcoming council meeting. Do we have a seconder? Councillor O'Neill. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? Councillor O'Neill.
I'm going to speak to this. I too have been approached by Bruce Scott in relation to this particular initiative. I think it will tie in very nicely to the report that is probably needed to come back to council pretty quickly in relation to acknowledging the service of Queen Elizabeth II and her passing that occurred in 2022. If this was to be supported in its entirety, not just the report today, we would be the first in Australia that I'm told that would be part of the Queen's Commonwealth Canopy. And so the quicker that we can move on this and a report come back to council, including the other report in relation to acknowledging the passing, I think would be, a great thing to have done before the 30th of June this year.
Okay, CEO, as far as just, could we put that till the next, because, obviously one of the things is, do we qualify and so forth? Could it be done for the next meeting, or could we set a couple of meetings? So
certainly, through the chair, I'll make every effort within 2 meetings to get something to you.
Righto. And there was also that other report about
the tree planting through the chair. Yes.
Yeah. So maybe if those could come back together. I don't know whether we need to put anything in the motion about that or not.
I just wonder, Mr Mayor, could that just be circled through a briefing? There's probably a bit of discussion about both of those aspects before it comes back to a council decision. And I think the original report was that I moved was to come via a briefing as well, so this would complement it.
So maybe we should put that in there then.
That a report be prepared for an upcoming council meeting, subject to discussions at a briefing.
Right, I'm happy with that. Okay, seconder, happy with that, obviously?
Yeah, probably, Mayor, that it'll probably be prepared for upcoming council meeting, post discussions at a briefing.
Righto.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy with that as a seconder.
Okay, everyone can see that. Yeah, I too will speak to this. If we can qualify and if it can happen, I believe, respecting, we all saw the effect on the nation of losing Queen Elizabeth, and anything that we can do, and we've got a special part in everyone's heart for our avenue of bottle trees and the remembrance around the soldiers that were lost. So it might be able to be tied in together, and I'd like to see if it could happen, and then council can make that decision. Okay, so on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yeah, it will be, but not.
Yes.
Okay, 9-0. Okay, I think that's, did we get that info?
We had one laid on the table.
Councillor McMullen? Righto, please go ahead.
I'd like to move a motion without notice, please.
Righto.
I'd like to include, I think everyone got a copy this morning, the letter and request from the Roma Historical Precinct Club regarding the asbestos removal in the building they use, council building that they use, or they have the use of. I don't know how to.
Just through. Fine.
I don't
Keep
know.
going. Sorry.
I'm happy if you want to change anything, CEO.
No, through the chair. If you do get the item without notice up, we are just in the process of just typing up a recommendation.
Councillor McMullen, is your intent to move the subject matter in its entirety, or are you moving the notice of motion is to put it on the agenda?
Yeah, put it on the agenda.
To discuss as part of the Q2. That's what you're suggesting, isn't it?
Well, put it on the agenda to see what support we got around it first. Well,
You're moving to put it on the agenda for us to be able to discuss it as part of the Q2, aren't you?
Well, Q2. We're finished with Q2, haven't we?
Just through the chair, based on the commentary provided to me, was that that the intention was to put up a notice of motion so council can consider it as part of this agenda, and secondly that you have a motion prepared in relation to the item should it be accepted, and then that's up to all of you as to whether that gets seconded or.
Okay, so it's really getting it on the agenda, and Councillor McMullen has moved that. I'll second that.
That's not what I'm reading.
No, sorry.
So we basically, you've moved a motion to just get it on the agenda.
That's correct, yeah.
So we got that one.
So you've got McMullen and.
Okay, so we'll just name it as Roma Butter Factory Asbestos, or?
Yeah, Asbestos Works. Yeah.
Asbestos Works.
Yep.
Righto. So
sorry, just so because it's not clear on the screen.
We're just moving it to get it on the agenda, not that extra.
Is that clear, Kel? The resolution that the.
So if you look at the top of that sheet, if you look at the top of that piece of paper, it says move that this item be included.
just get that up, won't be long. Yes.
Sorry, Jeff, you're right. I didn't realise that you'd found the money.
Well, I just sent it to the CEO this morning. I sent it all the same email.
So given that you've got that point too, your notice of motion can be just to do that.
Yeah.
I thought you were putting it on the agenda to discuss as part of the other
I
Q2
just
stuff.
put it up so to see what the rest of the councillors thought of, to get.
It's just that we've got enclosed in a minute Q2 budget review, which has items in it for discussion. I thought you were embedding it in there, but you've found money already. We just don't know what that project is, though, that will be removed.
Well, we haven't. I've moved that the additional item for the Roma Butter Factory asbestos removal be included on the agenda.
And I seconded that. So does anyone wish to speak against the motion or for the motion? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
Okay, so that's now on the agenda, 9-0. Councillor McMullen.
Okay.
I'll deal with the Roma Butter Factory asbestos as the next item of business. Councillor McMullen, do you want to...
I'll move that Council 1 endorse the asbestos removal works at the Roma Butter Factory as a matter of priority to commence immediately as requested. 2, approve $28,000 from the available capital works budget 22-23 and that a project of equivalent value be modified or removed from the schedule. 3, that a report proposing projects to be modified and removed be brought to the next meeting.
I'll second that. Now, does the mover wish to speak to the motion? Or do you have a question, Councillor Hancock?
I don't have a problem with the project, but my concern is that I know that we've got to look at what we're removing, but what if we get there and there's nothing that we can remove? Like, do we know that there's stuff there? Do we not? Like, I'd like to know what we're removing so I can value it with this project.
Look, through the chair, I can understand the question.
No, not their quotes.
No, through the chair, I can understand the question. Look, what I would say is that you've had an urgent request today, which is, and that it's not possible to make a rational decision around what you would remove or modify at this point without having some due consideration to that. We are 50% through the capital works project, so you've got a lot of projects that haven't commenced, so you will have the opportunity to duly consider that. In all likelihood, I think that this won't be a difficult thing to achieve, however, because you're only 50% through your program. But at the same point I recognise that it's just virtually impossible to pull a rabbit out of a hat today to say, well, we're going to knock that off. The only other alternative is that you provide the funding from cash reserves so that you're not affecting your current capital work schedule, if that makes sense.
Can I ask a question? How much would approximate be still to spend out of the capital works budget?
Through the chair, you've got a $60 million budget and you're probably halfway through, so you've still got $30 million in relation to works. So I think, in answer to Councillor Hancock's question and yours, Mr Mayor, I think this is quite possible to do because some of those projects may already have delays and this project could be commenced pretty quickly.
Okay, so does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I think most of us have been aware of this project for a little while, and I got the phone call yesterday to ask the question. So the priority is they've got the concreting company people coming to concrete the floor in approximately 4 weeks, and they've been advised they should get the asbestos out first rather than let, it's going to be hard enough to control rather than any chance of any dust landing on the new cement.
Okay, Councillor Taylor.
I'd just like to add that they do actually have $10,000 to put towards this themselves as well, haven't they? as far as I know.
Sorry, yeah, this
Yeah.
this is the project's actually 38,000. They've put their 10 in. Yes, sorry.
Okay, so does anyone wish to speak against the motion? I'll speak for the motion. I believe this is actually a very common sense way to do it. I believe this is better than actually identifying a project in the short term, because we know we have approximately $30 million, and what we're saying is out of that $30 million, 28,000 will not go ahead. So we have definitely the ability to commit to 28,000 out of $30 million. We also got a situation where a non-for-profit group has a council building, is doing significant work to improve the asset. So what a wonderful situation. So when we've got a non-for-profit group doing this, we need to put our best foot forward and make sure it happens. So I believe this needs to be dealt with now, and I'll certainly be supporting this motion. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll be speaking. No.
Do you have a question, Councillor O'Neill?
No, I'll be speaking, but I'd like to move an amendment.
Please go ahead.
In between 2 and 3, so make 3 number 4. Point 3 will read that council acknowledge
the contribution.
The $10,000 contribution by the Roma Butter Factory or Roma Historical Precincts
Incorporated
as part of this project.
Is the mover happy with that? I'm happy with that. That is the motion. Councillor Edwards, would you like to speak?
No, I was happy to speak.
Oh, but he already said it first, so then I'll get you to speak after him.
Yeah, I'm sure I indicated, but
No,
that's
no,
fine.
Sorry, I heard something from.
I don't mind. I don't mind.
Please go ahead, Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, this is actually a benefit here. You know, it's the contributions come through, so technically it's gone back to 28,000, which is good. And the other thing was, once again, you know, you've got a committee, non-profit organisation who volunteers within the community. They do a countless number of hours for nothing, and it's just great to see them contacting the council and asking for putting it before us at least, so that we can consider it. And I think that's great.
Okay, then Councillor O'Neill.
I'm happy to support this. Both Ken and Jody spoke to me at Australia Day about what their plan was and the time pressures that they were facing, given that they had applied for a grant and were unfortunate not to be successful in getting the money. Once they spoke to me about the timeframes, I did encourage them to come to council as quickly as they could, thinking that we could include it as part of the Q2. But I too want to recognise a group of volunteers that are doing a really good job, and they should be applauded for that. And it was front and centre on Australia Day, with both the organisation receiving an award and Ken himself becoming the Roma Citizen of the Year for 2023. So I support this. I'm pleased we're not pulling more money from cash reserves. I don't think that's a good practice, but I do support us looking at the capital works, and given the finances that have been articulated by the CEO, we can obviously identify a $28,000 savings somewhere across a $30 million spend, and so therefore I'm happy to support it today.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to support this motion today too, provided the urgent request. Generally, I would be a bit reserved to support a motion that I'm not sure what project we're going to take it from to put another project up. But given the CEO's comments that we do have $30 million available there in our projects. But I just want to acknowledge that 30 million would be earmarked for something else across the region. But I'm hoping as we get to discuss our Q2 review that there are some projects there that just may not have been started yet, and so there will be a $28,000 project there that we might be able to not take from, but just to use for the moment until we can get that project up and going. So on that basis, I'm happy to support this motion as it is an urgent request.
Okay, Councillor Burkett, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I'm speaking for. I think this is common sense. Makes total sense to do it. One, before the concreting, but two, for a safety issue. We've got an organisation with elderly people or members of the public going in there. You wouldn't want any of these sheets falling down. It'll close the whole place down. Similar to what happened to a building that we own. So I think it's definitely common sense that should be done. And it's a great organisation to do a hell of a lot themselves. So I applaud them for bringing it forward, and I urge everyone to support this.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Does the mover wish to sum up?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I don't think it'll be much. I'll be very surprised if we don't find $28,000 in the out of a 30 million budget in savings. I think if my sums tell me right, 1% of 30 million, 300,000. So I didn't, a very small amount of money to find if in savings over a 30 million budget.
Okay, so on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
Okay, that's 9-0. Any further business, councillors, before we go into closed?
We've laid one on the table.
We've got that info.
Yeah, I don't know whether we've got the info yet, have we?
Through the chair.
We
Apologies, councillors. You may recall that what was requested yesterday was that we circulate what the submission was in relation to one of our items, so that you could be fully across what the objections were. And I have been trying to get that information. I'll just have to double check to see whether I have that. Yeah. But you may need some time to consider it.
Righto.
Okay, and I actually have that information, and I'll forward it to you. Oh, actually,
sorry,
somebody has a.
What are we waiting for? Sorry.
Information to do with the item that's laid on the table about some detail about an objection, I believe.
It was the
objection is it references that it's attached, it's not, and so
I've
just asked that it be circulated to everyone.
Okay,
I'm
so
just through the chair, there were no declarations of work. Double check.
Yeah, there is when we deal with the item. There will be.
There will be.
Yep.
Okay. I'll just make sure Kelly has that.
Well, why don't we go into close because
We can leave it for later. That's
Yes.
Okay. Do we have someone to move into closed?
I'll have to go to the toilet.
I'm happy to move into close once we get the.
Yep.
Are we going to?
Mr. Mayor,
are we dealing with conflicts before that? Or?
Can I just ask? We are 15 minutes away from lunch, and we're about to close this meeting. We've got community here that may be joining us for lunch. Can we find out if lunch is here, or how far? So we're not doing that to the community, pushing them out, and then.
Yeah, sure. We can find that out. We haven't got it up on the screen, so a little bit of time anyway. We've got to do conflicts. That's a good point. We can do them.
I can't wait.
Too much information, Jeff.
Tyson. So just are you adjourning the meeting?
Yeah, we'll just we've got conflicts up there. We can do conflicts.
You've lost Councillor McMullen.
That's okay.
Yeah, but he has to go anyway. So.
Really?
Okay, we'll just adjourn we're losing a few people, so we'll adjourn for just a couple of minutes. With the meeting, we'll do conflicts. Councillor Edwards.
Yep. You ready?
Please go ahead.
Declaration of interest, item C1, description Maranoa Christmas party, Christmas street party, post-event report, declaring Councillor Mark Edwards, person with the interest-related party, close associate, other relationship, myself and Leichhardt Group, particulars of interest. This declarable conflict of interest arises because I am an employee and partner of Leichhardt Group, who leases a building in the main street. I also sell oranges in the main street. Type of conflict, declarable conflict of interest action. Leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Okay, do we have any other conflicts? Any other conflicts? I also declared a conflict on this item last time, so I won't be declaring again, but I'll be leaving the room on C1, Maranoa Christmas Street Party.
It's a different item.
Well, I believe it's the same item, Maranoa Street Christmas Party.
It's post-event report. It's a different item.
Isn't there a request for money in there too?
I think it's the same as last time. Same heading. Our description is the same. Yeah.
The only thing, yeah, to me it's the same item, Maranoa, but it's just a post-event. But that's what I'll be doing.
But the decision's
I think the last one was post-event too. I'm not sure. I thought it was.
It's over. I mean, it's only a report on what. There's no decision to be made, is there?
Yeah, but I'm leaving the room.
Exactly. That's, yeah.
Okay, is anybody else got any conflicts? Righto, we'll close the meeting for lunch, and we'll be back in an hour. Righto, okay, so do we let's have someone to move into close, please.
Thank you. I think, Councillor Hancock was going to, didn't he?
Councillor Hancock?
Yeah, by all means, sit there. Yeah, great.
I move that in accordance with the provisions of Section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, that Council resolve to close the meeting to the public to discuss confidential items that its councillors consider is necessary to close the meeting. In accordance with Section 254J5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the following table provides the matters to be discussed and an overview of what is to be discussed while the meeting is closed.
Oh, no, I don't need that.
C1, Maranoa Christmas Street Party post-event report. C2, Q2 budget review. C3, Quinton Street development adjoining services. C4, request to purchase land 27 Allen Street, Roma. C5, Denton Court subdivision in June request. C6, permit to occupy lot A on CPWV 1688 or part of lot 11 on WV 1275 Roma Taroom Road. C7, claim for damages to vehicle Brynog Road, BRYNOG Road. And that is it. Thank you.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Okay, we're in closed. Item 14.1, application for road closure, section of road adjoining lot 66 on WV 1253. Do we have a mover, councillor?
We've got a conflict here.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Please go ahead.
We're just trying to get it up there.
Didn't he do it earlier?
No, I didn't.
No.
You did last time, didn't you?
Is it the same item as last time, and did you?
We've discussed it.
No, this is,
No, just
no,
do
this,
road
this,
closure.
Yeah, well, we've had it to the table before.
Just do
No, we
conflict.
not this road closure.
This particular one, I don't think it was.
Yes, we have.
This one.
Well, how did we
Anyway,
get
just
the
read
advice
it.
before?
We didn't. That's what we waited.
You sure about that? I'm sure we've had this here and we laid it on the table.
Yeah, that's what I said.
He could have it.
Earlier today.
No, before Christmas.
It would have been quicker to read it.
Anyway, yep,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Item number, have a conflict with item number 14.1, description application for road closure, section of road adjoining lot 66 on WV 1253, declaring councillor as myself.
Excuse me, Councillor Ladbrook, you need that microphone.
Oh, shall I start again?
No, please keep going. Councillor O'Neill, did we need to notify anyone? Have we done that?
The person with the interest and related is associate is my wife Alana, and myself. Particulars of interest, El Dorado Road is named in the report and we live on El Dorado Road. The type of conflict, declarable conflict of interest, and the action I'll take is leave the room while the matter is being discussed and voted on.
Yeah, Jeff, July last year.
Yeah, I knew it ages ago, yeah.
Jeez, what happened to it then?
That's when it's in the resolution there.
Really? Wow.
Time flies.
Is it the same matter?
Yeah.
Well, it's in, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Well, it's this lay on the table.
Okay, do we have a mover? We did. We had Councillor Taylor. Please go ahead.
I'd like to move that council, after considering feedback received from neighbouring property owners, object to the permanent closure of the road adjoining land described as Lot 66 on WV 1253, as a road closure would affect a neighbouring landholder's access.
We have a seconder. Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
No, thanks.
We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Miss Gate, though.
Councillor Edwards.
Yep.
You on the channel, Councillor Edwards?
He unmuted and said
Now-
something, but we didn't hear it.
Councillor
Didn't come
Edwards.
through. Councillor Edwards, we're not getting you.
Come back in.
Oh, now it's
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
we
Now
got
you're
you
in.
now. Which way are you voting on that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that's 8-0. Thank you.
That's all good.
Right, now, moving on to the closed, if we can get the councillor back.
Yeah, he's-
Actually,
He's on his way, hopefully.
Yep.
Oh, you got to get
this is myself, yeah.
it out again.
Probably could have done a tag team, but anyway.
Yeah. Right.
C1, Maranoa Christmas Street Party post-event report. I've declared conflict in the past and I will leave the room while this matter is being dealt with.
You good to go too, Mark?
Okay,
I'll text you when you're right to come back in, Councillor Edwards.
Okay, Councillor Edwards and the Mayor have left the room, declaring a conflict of interest. Item number C1, Maranoa Christmas Street Party post-event report. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move the council, 1, note the report as presented. 2, consider an allocation of $20,000 in the 23-24 budget for council to host and coordinate the 2023 Maranoa Christmas Street Party. 3, consider the location and reducing the length of McDowell Street closure for the 2023 event at a later date. And 4, coordinate future Christmas-focused shop local campaigns across the region.
The second is Councillor Hancock. Does the move on
I do, just very briefly, if I can,
motion?
Chair. I know I expressed this earlier when we were in close, but I want to say thank you to the staff for the work that they put into coordinating the 2022 event. From all reports, it was a complete success, and in its 4th year, we should continue to evolve the event as we take feedback from shop owners, from public, from staff, from councillors, how we can ensure that it continues to be a must-attend event across the region. I do really want to thank the community and the business owners that gave up their time and involved themselves in the organising committee. I don't think it would have been as successful without that buy-in from the local businesses, and I think we need to encourage that going forward. The history of this particular event was that it wasn't a council initiative. It was born by the community, it was born by the business owners, and they came to council seeking support for us to take it on and work with them and help coordinate and give it the muscle that's needed to make it happen. And the staff certainly they certainly did that on the night and in the weeks leading up to it. But we need that buy-in from the business community to make it a success. And that's just not in Roma. This report highlights the events in the outlying centres as well, and you know the feedback has been positive there as well. And so I hope the council supports this today. There are a couple of actions to come out of it, not just noting the report. And I really do look forward to another successful Shop Local campaign and Christmas events that council will help make happen at the end of 2023.
Okay, anyone speaking against the motion? Anyone want to speak for the motion? Everyone happy? Councillor Ladbroke?
Yeah, no, we're all happy.
All happy. Okay, did you want to sum up? Okay, all those in favour? That's 7-0. 7-0. Who's going to text? Mark.
Back on.
Excellent,
Can you hear me?
Mark. Sure can.
C2, 22-23 quarter two budget review. I would like to move that council, 1, adopt the quarter two 2022-23 revised budget as presented. 2, adopt the revised financial statements for the 2022-23 budget amendments as shown in the report's attachments. Revised budget financial statements 2022-23 and the following 2 years. Revised budget financial statements 22-23 and the following 9 years. Revised financial sustainability ratios 22-23. Total value of charges in rates and total value of change in rates and charges, and the documents be placed on the council website at www.maranoa.qld.gov.au council/council
I'll second it.
/ budgets. Okay, we've got a seconder there, Councillor Edwards.
Well done, Mark.
Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
All those against? That is 7-2, if I can call for a division. Okay, moving on, C3.
89.
Page 89. Quinton Street Development Adjoining Services. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that Council 1 cover the costs of relocation of the water connections and works to facilitate the adjoining developments as part of an economic incentive for the CBD. 2, that the relocation cost of water connections of up to $7,141.20 be funded from GL Infrastructure Fund. 3, note council will relocate water main and meter to the other side of the building as access will be lost as a result of the new development adjacent.
Okay, we have a second, Councillor Ladbroke. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? No. I'll speak to it. I do believe we're certainly pro for development, but also I think part of that can come with some unintended consequences. This is one of those. I believe that we should be supporting small business in the region where it's really through no fault of themselves. So I'll certainly supporting council be a pro-business council. Does anyone else wish to speak? Does the mover wish to sum up?
No, thanks. Mr.
We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Okay, moving on. C4, request to purchase land 27 Allen Street, Roma. Do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that Council 1 decline the offer to purchase lot 43 on RP 45827. 2, undertake an inspection of the site to determine the impact of infrastructure on the land, on overland water flows, and undertake any required remediation actions. 3, in the first instance, replace the concrete stormwater lid with an open grate. 4, advise the interested party of Council's decision.
Okay, we have a seconder. Councillor O'Neill. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0.
Which is page 104.
C5, Denton Court subdivision in June request. Do we have a mover? Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that Council 1 receive and note the request. 2, uphold the original conditions imposed on land purchased at Denton Court in June. A, however, if a single entity purchases 2 adjoining blocks for the purpose of amalgamation to build a single residential home that has planning approval, the home must be constructed on the block within the 3 years from the date of settlement. B, furthermore, if a single entity purchases additional blocks, Council approves a maximum time frame of 5 years to construct a residential home that has planning approval.
Okay, we have a seconder. Councillor O'Neill. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I do. I am very, very mindful that Denton Court has been established with the intention of having residential housing blocks, beautiful houses or a standard of housing in June, and to encourage more people to come and live here and to make it their permanent residence. We have tried to be fair to those who are currently buying land and those who in the future may wish to buy land, and we are trying to ensure by this this motion here that I've now will present to my colleagues, that we are looking at lots and lots of options, but basically really emphasising that we would like people to buy land with the intention of building a house and actually residing in the town of Injune.
Okay, well, I'll speak against the motion. Certainly won't be supporting this motion. I believe that when we've got blocks that are multiple blocks that need to be amalgamated, I believe it should be on a case-by-case basis. I also don't believe that this is in the correct spirit of trying to get development happening. So I would not be supporting this motion, because I believe that it's very important to deal with these issues, as we probably won't have that many of them on a case-by-case basis. I've been very impressed by the applicant and what has been put on offer, and I would be going a different way to make sure that we encourage development by actually listening to what is proposed and delivering on that, as that would be a major coup for the area, rather than what council decides they want to do. Okay, does someone wish to speak for the motion? Councillor O'Neill.
I'm happy to support the motion, and in doing so, I think it is fitting to acknowledge former Councillor Denton, who's in the gallery today, of which this subdivision in June is named after. Joy was a major protagonist and supporter of getting this up and going in June. There was a need to ensure for the growth of this community that there was land available to be developed, residential land, and that is what's happening here. This resolution allows that growth to occur, but with some options. And if we've got people that are willing to invest their hard-earned dollars into the Injune community to build their dream home and want to do it over 2 blocks, well, this allows them to do it. If they want to build purchase additional blocks to build homes that have a myriad of circumstances that lead them to do that, well, this resolution will allow them to do that as well. What this development was always intended to do was to provide opportunities for people to invest in the Australian dream of owning a home, and that house happens to be in the town of Injune. So I am 100% supportive of this. I think it's a good outcome, and I know there will be people that we gather with tonight that will be very excited by this resolution getting up by council today.
Okay, would someone like to speak against the motion or for the motion?
I'll speak for.
Councillor Burkett.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, there was a lot of deliberation over this to get down to the final outcome, and I'm fully supportive of this. I think the request which we got, I think it answers all that person's issues and what she or he wants. So I think it's a great outcome for the future of Injune, and I look forward to more houses getting put up along that estate.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak to the motion?
Mr Mayor, I'd just like to say too, I think it's a good step in the right direction to not only to help people local people that want to invest in this area, and I'm hoping there'll be more other people want to follow suit now.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Does the mover wish to sum up?
No, I'm just very, very pleased to know that there is development imminently ready to be undertaken, because the land has been there for a period of time, and I think this is a positive step in the right direction.
Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
All those against? 8-1 if I can call for a division. Okay, moving on to C6. Thank you.
108.
Oh, sorry, 108. I've jumped the gun.
You want to get on?
Okay, C6, permit to occupy on lot A of CPWV 1688 or part of lot 11 on WV 1275 Roma to Room Road. Who was first?
I'll let him.
Councillor Ladbrook.
I'd like to move that council provide no objection to reissue the permit to occupy on lot A on CPWV 1688 or part of lot 11 on WV 1275 Roma to Room Road, and 2, authorise the CEO or delegate to sign the LA 30 Part C form accordingly. Yep.
Okay, we have a seconder, Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
Okay, 9-0. C7, claims for damages to vehicle Brynog Road. Councillor Hancock.
I move that council, on receipt of a statutory declaration that states that this does not form part of any other claim, e.g. insurance, and that it is a true and accurate record detailing the incident. 1, subject to confirmation of expenses incurred provides full and final settlement on an ex gratia basis of $611.59 to claimant 1 and $790.37 to claimant 2 for damages incurred. 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to execute a deed of release and any documents necessary. 3, draw the required funds from GL 02171, Wuru Customer Service.
Okay, do we have a seconder? I'll second that. Is there any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? Councillor Hancock.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, all I'd like to do is encourage our community to make sure that they help us and be the eyes in our community. And if they see anything that is a safety hazard, or there might be potholes in the roads, or there might be something on the side of the road, if they could actually, I just want to encourage them to put in a customer request so that council can actually attend to it as soon as possible.
Okay, I'll speak to the motion. I do agree with that too, and part of operating locally and having local boss in each area, part of the job is for those bosses to get some of our requests happening quicker. We've got different options like the micro panel, as well as just really having more efficient ways of getting our reactionary works as well as our maintenance done. We've seen some major differences in the planning for that. And as that starts to happen, I do believe, as Councillor Hancock says, we encourage people to use the CRs and then get it fixed. Also, I think it's very important in this case that we get a statutory declaration with all of those full details, which is very important for council to actually have a legal document of what happened. So all of that, I think, is important and will be beneficial moving forward. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Does the mover wish to sum up?
No, thanks.
Okay. It's actually Councillor Hancock.
I'm not concentrating. I better must be.
No, thank you.
Late in the day. Okay, then we'll go straight to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Okay, any further business, councillors? Then I'll close the meeting at 5:12 and thank you for your attendance.